So apparently right now at the DNC, Matt Walsh is in disguise on the DNC floor, and they're all getting really mad about it. So, that's funny. But we do have big news. RFK Jr., his team, very angry about how the Democrats have waged lawfare against them, have announced that they're planning, potentially, to drop out and endorse Donald Trump. So this is actually pretty big news. We'll talk about that. Plus, Kamala Harris's unrealized gains tax, they say it's only for the wealthy, I think would probably be the destruction of this country. And they know it. They know it. So we'll talk about that. Plus, we'll talk a little bit about what Joe Biden was saying last night and a bunch of other stories. I'm really interested to see what's going on with Matt Walsh there. They're saying he's posing as a delegate, so this is going to be pretty funny. And they're doing their fake vote right now, which is funny because they already voted for her. And there's like a chyron saying, like, technically they already voted for her like last week. So this is just celebratory. So anyway, smash the like button, subscribe to this channel, head over to castbrew.com, buy Cast Brew coffee to support the show. And we got a bunch of different flavors. We've got Appalachian Nights. We've got Graphene Dream, Ian's low acidity coffee. Everybody loves it. You want to support the show, you can go to castbrew.com. We are, in fact, using the proceeds from Cast Brew. We've not taken any out. It's all going to expanding the company, and we're hoping to get our coffee shop up and running as soon as possible. It's in a historic building, so it is what it is. But when you buy from Cast Brew, you're supporting that endeavor. Head over to timcast.com, click Join Us, become a member to support our work directly, and you'll get access to our members-only Uncensored show coming up at 10 p.m. tonight. You don't want to miss it. You'll get access to our Discord server where you as members get to submit questions and actually join in, call in, talk to us and our guest. It's good fun. So smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Joining us tonight to talk about this and so much more is Brandon Straka.
Hey, it's been a perilous journey to get to Timcast this evening, but always a pleasure to be here and good to see you guys.
You're being persecuted by electric vehicles, right?
Man, it was something else.
Who are you?
Yeah,
What do you do?
I want
I'll
this
ask.
full story.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, I'm Brandon Straka, founder of the Walkway campaign. And for anybody who maybe has been on social media in the last week, I just dropped a new video talking about all the things the Democrats have done to destroy the country over the last 6 years, which has been kind of blowing up on X. Give it a look if you haven't seen it yet and share it out. And also, Walkway's running a big contest we'll be talking about, the Walkway $10,000 testimonial video challenge.
That sounds cool.
Really cool. We're giving away $10,000 to the best Walkway video.
Like the best explanation, most charismatic, revelation about how they walked away from the Democratic Party.
Absolutely, yeah. Between now and basically November 1st. So we're taking in videos. People can go to walkwaychallenge.com to check it out. But yeah, we just want people to share their walkway stories, and we're going to give away 10 grand.
Well, if you didn't figure it out yet, I'm back. What's up, everybody? Good to see you guys. And what a night to be here with you, dude. Always love seeing Brandon Straka in the house. I'm back from Miami where I was doing a lung cleanse, playing crap load of music and controlling the weather. I don't know if you guys do this a lot, but you can use your magnetic field. Yeah, dude. You use your magnetic field to interact with the cloud's magnetic field, and you send positive energy into the clouds. It disperses them like oil into water. Or you can draw negative energy and create vortexes. I did it in front of Luke. He'll ask Luke about it. 100%. I've done it every time I do it. It works. So
Should you go to like a hurricane zone then and help people out?
It works. It's more effective when there's high moisture content in the air. It's easier to move it around. In deserts and stuff, it's a little more challenging.
Like the Bahamas when they got pummeled by a hurricane.
Yeah, we were getting a night. We were out on the beach and it was just dark clouds coming in. Everyone was worried about rain. So I did the positive energy, channeling positive energy, and they just dispersed. So we had a nice evening. And then Luke was like, "Make it rain, dude." I was like, "Are you sure, man?" Because he's like, "Make it rain." So I focused the negative energy. Like in 3 seconds, lightning shattered across the sky, and I just kept focusing the negative energy, and it just kept coming. And he looked on the radar. He's like, "It looks like a tornado's coming." So it started to rain. People were running, covering their heads. So I started to focus the positive energy again, and slowly pushed it all away again.
Well, that proves it.
Yeah.
Anyway, Hannah Claire's here too.
Hi, I'm Hannah Claire Brimble. I'm a writer for scnr.com. That's Scanner News. Check out their work at Timcast News. Thanks for joining us. Let's get started.
Anyway, back to reality. We have the story from The Guardian. RFK Jr. considers dropping out to help Trump, running mate says. Nicole Shanahan says she an independent 2024 candidate, could walk away and join forces with Donald Trump. I think I have walk away. Look at that. Here's the clip for you guys. Let's just roll tape.
There's two options that we're looking at, and one is staying in, forming that new party, but we run the risk of a Kamala Harris and Waltz presidency because we draw votes from Trump, or we draw somehow more votes from Trump, or we walk away right now and join forces with Donald Trump, and we walk away from that and we explain to our base why we're making this decision. Not easy.
Clearly.
Yeah.
So I think the big story was that they got pulled off of the ballot in New York. I think that was huge news. And in this podcast, it's actually a much, much longer conversation. Shanahan talks about how they're basically the Democrats are waging extreme lawfare against them. And Trump's actually been receptive to their ideas. And I've been saying this. RFK Jr.'s passion for chronic illnesses and environmental toxins, that's the Trump path right there. He goes to Trump, gives Trump the endorsement. Trump should put him on some kind of board managing or overseeing this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I thought actually, I haven't seen very many interviews with Nicole Shanahan, and I actually thought this one was pretty compelling. It's obviously a deeply emotional conversation for her, and they covered a lot of stuff, including policies, but she said that the DNC has effectively sabotaged them, and they have this PAC that has been using millions of dollars to target them specifically. She even alluded to people being in their campaign specifically to, cause chaos and all kinds of problems. But I found it really interesting hearing her talk about the effect of being a third-party candidate. She said, if we get 5% or more of the vote, then that unlocks public funding for us. That means that next year, in 2028, we could run a more legitimate third-party candidate, and 71% of Americans want that. I don't know where she got that number from, but I believe it. I think there are a lot of Americans who are frustrated with the stranglehold the two dominant parties have on American politics. And so when I first saw this clip this morning, I thought, hopefully she has talked to RFK and he knows that she's saying these things publicly. Otherwise, it really seems like there's chaos within their ticket. But it is interesting to hear her weigh sort of like what it means to be a third party candidate in America versus what is actually good for the country. Yeah.
But don't you feel like the fact that they're basically being bullied out by the Democrats and the Democrats using all the usual tactics, lawfare, corrupt, devious behavior, all of these things, and they're willing to actually get behind Trump if they drop out? I mean, doesn't that tell you so much?
And it wasn't even a consideration from the beginning for them. It seems like for them to join or endorse Harris's campaign. She even said, Shanahan said, she regretted supporting Democrats in the past. It's the biggest mistake of her life. I mean, that's pretty strong language. And she's saying, she had this line where she's like, we didn't want to be a spoiler candidate, but the DNC has forced us into a position where we are. And we wanted to win. We wanted a fair shot, and the DNC has made that impossible.
But she's not saying that they're being bullied and pushed around by both camps.
No, she said specifically it was not the RNC.
Right. Yeah, but doesn't that tell you so much? As the left is telling us that we're the authoritarians, we're the bigots, we're the ones abusing lawfare. This should prove it.
They installed a candidate. Kamala Harris was an installation no one voted for. That's crazy. That's full authoritarianism. And this is kind of an example of in politics. I'm a bit of an idealist just in life and in general. And in 2016, I voted for Jill Stein because I'm like, I don't like Hillary. I don't like Trump. I'm voting for the one I believe in the most. But the thing about politics is it's a game. It's like a game of organization and strategy where you vote against sometimes to get things through. Yep. You make deals with people that you don't agree with to get your part of your deal through, like what the Libertarian Party did with Chase Oliver. They basically colluded behind the scenes to get that guy into power. The two of the front runners decided together, like, let's just bury the hatchet and we'll make Chase our candidate so that Clint Russell. Yeah. And the reality is, if you want to,
it destroyed the party. It's ripped the Libertarian Party to shreds. You've got Mises Caucus, Libertarian Party members openly endorsing Donald Trump right now. The Libertarian Party's backroom deals with their garbage candidates destroyed whatever chance they had. But you know what? I got to tell you, I was saying this morning, I would not want to be Clint or Dave if Trump loses. If you actually were the nominee for the Libertarian Party and Trump lost and they actually did get 3 or 4%, everyone's going to be like, it's your fault. That 3% could have got Trump over the line.
I was just out to dinner with Clint last weekend on Friday, I think it was, and he said the exact same thing. He's like, could you have imagined if we did it? And then Trump, I was like, you guys would have got 12% of the vote, you and Dave. And he's like, we probably would have taken it from Trump too.
So here's my question for you, Ian. You say you don't know if you want to vote for Donald Trump. You'd consider voting for him if RFK drops out and endorses him, though.
Yeah, I would.
So you pointed out that Kamala Harris was installed. No one voted for her. And so we're presented with two scenarios. Let's throw all policy aside. No, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz haven't presented any. And let's just entertain the surface. Fascistic, authoritarian, threats to democracy, etc. This is what everyone's saying right now. It's polarization, it's tribal. Joe Rogan recently, he was talking to, I think it was Russell Crowe, and he's saying, it's all my team, tribal this, tribal that. I think that statement exemplifies exactly what I was warning about with these Trump influencers who are attacking Joe. Joe is like, I'm outside this, man. I don't want to be involved in your cat fight. Okay. So I don't view it that way. I think what we're looking at is the Republican Party had a brutal primary. The Ron DeSantis voters despised the Trump voters. And there was a brutal internal conflict. And even Vivek Ramaswamy, he's running. And there were a lot of, now his strategy was play nice with Trump, but see if I can muster that support from people who think Trump may not be the right guy right now. A lot of people were on Team Vivek saying, no, Trump is great. He's a smart guy. He was mistreated. We like Vivek, though. They were trying to be very careful about how they went about it. DeSantis's people were brutal. I mean, they were absolutely brutal. They were insulting people. They were attacking them. And the Trump supporters were attacking the DeSantis people. Through this primary, you ended up with DeSantis supporters begrudgingly saying, fine, you guys win. Trump's the candidate. We still don't like him, but we recognize he's better than Kamala. There is a faction. There are numerous factions on the right who have chosen to or not to vote for Donald Trump in the primary, resulting in him ultimately being the winner. And now many people say, fine, I'll vote for Trump because I've weighed the pros and cons and it makes sense. On the Democrat side, they installed her. They cheated the primary. They ripped off RFK Jr. In the past, Bernie Sanders twice. They did it to make sure there could be no popular selection in the Democratic Party. And so surface level threat to democracy. We're looking at two frontrunners. Kamala Harris, it's laughably absurd, but don't disrespect the polls. Maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong, who cares? And Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the candidate of a brutal primary process and a democratic process among people who thought, fine, he's not my candidate, but I'd consider voting for him. And the Trump supporters who are screaming and cheering and banging their heads saying, woo, we love Trump no matter what. The Democrat side is people screaming and cheering Kamala, Kamala, despite the fact nobody voted for her in the first place. I don't see how you don't vote Trump.
Yeah, the only way I would not vote Trump is if I really, really hated the guy or disliked him or disapproved of his policies or something.
But this is the reason I bring this up. You are not voting for Trump. You are voting for the last vestige of an actual democratic process. If the Democrats succeed, it's not just about Kamala Harris becoming president and winning power. It's about them proving they can steal it.
Man, I've been thinking that all day, dude. It's so disheartening to think that they just installed a candidate and that people are cheering.
And so on the surface, this is my point. You're not just voting for candidates, you're voting for two systems. Trump represents an ugly system where people fight. Trump is by far not the best candidate anyone could absolutely hope for. He's the best we've got. And I think marginally good in a lot of areas, particularly foreign policy was pretty good. Despite the fact many people don't like each other, we've come together and said, this is how America works. We ultimately say this is what's best for the country, even if it's not exactly what we want. The Democrats are take it or else. We control the system. You get no say. And they're celebrating right now at the DNC. Which system are you voting for? Because if the Democrats succeed in this endeavor, it lays the groundwork for what this country becomes in the next 4, 8, 12, 16 years. They are going to repeat the process. And they're going to say, we no longer need democracy. We no longer need to allow anyone vote. We, the political elites, decide who's in charge. And the people of this country have supported that.
I guess technically that's what superdelegates have been the entire time.
Absolutely.
This is just blatant. Now they've just blatantly shown us they didn't even use superdelegates this time. Or maybe they did. I'm not sure how they installed her exactly.
They did, but they decided outside of a primary. The primary chose Joe Biden. And they knew from the beginning this was, you will never convince me they didn't know we were going this direction. That's why I'll scream it to the high heavens. In September, I think 13th, I put out a video on my morning show saying Biden will not be the nominee. I said, after everything we've seen, I have no idea how he could possibly be the nominee. And of course, I had my doubts after that. I'm like, man, it's March. I don't know how they pull him out, if it's even possible. They did it. Everybody was predicting this. We knew they were playing a dirty game, a shadow campaign. My point ultimately is this. Donald Trump has policies. I think mostly good. We can argue some of them and say, well, that one doesn't seem right. He's had bad hires. He had Operation Warp Speed. We disagree. But at least it still represents people choosing through a democratic system. If you don't support that, It doesn't matter what Kamala Harris supports because we don't even know what she supports. She's lied and she's got garbled nonsense and no policies on her website. You are basically saying autocratic America from this point forward.
I like that. I like the idea, not the autocratic America, but I like the idea that you're voting for a system and not a person.
I think it's terrifying. I don't think it should be that way.
Shouldn't be.
It should be that the Democrats offer up someone who's marginally good and the Republicans offer up someone's marginally good. And we go, oh, we roll our eyes and say, well, look, ultimately there's a few social issues. This is how it used to be.
Don't screw it up too bad. Good luck, kind of thing.
Now, the real American election was DeSantis versus Trump. That was the actual election where we're trying to decide, do we want a Ron DeSantis style governance? It's calm. It's less ostentatious, I suppose I can call it, or Trump, which is more aggressive. Trump represents slightly different policies from Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis is a little bit more, I think he represented the right populist faction a bit better than Trump did. Ron DeSantis was very critical of some of the things that Trump had done, and Ron's governance in Florida very much reflected the will of many, like the popular positions of the right. But Donald Trump has the charisma to win. So there was a big debate over whether Trump was the right guy, DeSantis was the right guy. Long story short, we chose. We voted.
Brandon, when you walked away from the Democratic Party, was it because of the way that they handled the 2016 election with Hillary subverting Bernie? What was it exactly? Was it in...
No, I was a big Hillary supporter, and I actually supported Hillary going back to 2008 when she was, it was her versus Obama, and then when it became Obama, I got behind him and I supported him. No, for me, it mostly had to do with the media and the way that the media manipulates and basically carries water for the Democrats, because when Trump got elected in 2016, the media that I trusted, CNN, MSNBC, New York Times, et cetera, by that point, they were saying he had a 3% chance of winning. So I didn't even question that she was going to win in a landslide. It was 100%. So then when she didn't, I was like, what the hell just happened? How is it possible that the media that I trusted got this so wrong? And also, they've been saying for 18 months that he's the second coming of Hitler. Why would anybody vote for him? Not only why did he win, but why does anyone support this? And so my journey began with asking these questions. How did the media get it wrong? Why would anybody vote for him? And then I just kind of went back to the beginning of the campaign and I researched every moment that they had lied about. Did he call Mexicans rapists? Did he mock a disabled reporter? Did he advocate for, expelling Muslims from this country? And what I discovered time and time again was in every single instance, they were taking something that wasn't true at all, but isolating a soundbite and kind of creating their own narrative, and that they're just basically a propaganda arm for the Democratic Party.
Well, take a look at what just happened the other day from SCNR. Biden repeats debunked very fine people claim during his DNC speech. I think we have the clip here. Take a listen to this. We'll pull this one up here on X from Kyle Becker.
Nearly 4 years ago.
Oh, he's got the full clip. It's 5 minutes.
On the steps of the Capitol on a cold January day.
I'm not going to play the full 5-minute clip, but he actually said, Donald Trump said, and I quote, "There are very fine people on both sides." My God, that's what he said. That is what he said. That's what he meant. It's a lie.
And he knows it's a lie.
He knows it's a lie. Of course he does. The Democrats know it's a lie. So ultimately it comes down to this. And I ask again, I don't understand where Joe Rogan, Dave Smith, Michael Malice, Clinton Russell, Luke Rudkowski. Now, Luke has worn the shirt saying convicted felon for president. So I think it's clear Luke intends to vote for Donald Trump. But and I don't know where Michael and Dave are. I'm just saying these are, Joe Rogan's a middle of the road guy, independent. He's like, I don't know. RFK makes sense to me. Dave Smith is a libertarian Mises Caucus guy. Michael is an anarchist. But I have to imagine each one of these people in any rational conversation says, yeah, you got to vote for Trump. There's no question. Donald Trump represents, at the bare minimum, the last thread of a democratic process in this country.
Yeah, I'm an artist by trade, and the idea of picking a polarizing candidate and voting for him and upsetting half of the people I know in the world and ostracizing myself from their cultural realm is disconcerting because I want to make them happy through music and I want them to so that I can bring people together. But I have to I follow my integrity and look back on this as I voted for the system. I wanted to maintain the democratic process where you get to vote and choose your candidates. I cannot tolerate a system where we're just given candidates. That's monarchy or totalitarianism.
So how could you then say now that you wouldn't vote for Donald Trump?
Well, I was going to vote for RFK, and this is actually that they might be throwing their weight
Still
behind
can,
RFK.
though. He hasn't dropped out. So, like, if RFK doesn't drop out and he doesn't endorse Donald Trump, are you going to vote for Trump or are you going to vote for RFK?
Probably RFK.
So I can respect anybody saying they want to vote for who they want to vote for because that's the right candidate. Because if everyone did, this country would be very different. They're very different. But I also respect the point that you're basically not voting.
Yeah, I know. You got to play the political game. That's my
life.
My ideological bent is like it just doesn't mesh with politics.
Can I ask though, why not? If RFK drops out and you're willing to vote for Trump, why not just vote for Trump anyway, knowing that RFK can't win?
Man, you know, the main reason why I've been resistant to vote for Trump in the last year or two is because I don't want to upset half the people I know. It's a real weak way to do it, but I'm like, if I can just hold on and be the cultural centerpiece of my reality, and you don't have to tell people who you vote for. Yeah. That's part of this process is secret ballots. It's probably the purpose of it is so you don't have to upset half the people you know. So maybe I just won't vote and not tell anyone who I did or didn't vote for.
That is the secret Trump voter that we're hoping exists and turns out.
That's right.
I think a lot of people, and maybe people don't think this is as true in 2016, but in 2016 in particular, I felt like there were so many people who were like, oh no, I didn't vote. But they would, if you like knew them well enough, would be like, I voted for Trump. They didn't want to admit it. You know, I want to go back to something you said before, which is talking about the propaganda arm of the DNC. And I think this is such a big part of how Democratic campaigns in America work right now. It's making me think of Tim Walz, this vice president who is getting caught time and time again in these sort of like half lies. Like the thing today is he had implied, you know, he'd said JD Vance is a bad guy and he's saying bad stuff about IVF, which is very personal to me and my wife, implying that he had used in vitro fertilization to have his children. It turns out he's used IUI, a different fertility treatment. But again, it's just these misdirection and lies where at a certain point, like, you just wonder why they cannot pick an honest path at all. And I think ultimately it's because they have certain punches they want to throw and they'll do whatever they can to try and make the Republicans look bad at the cost of their integrity to the voters.
I kind of just think they're evil.
They're like manipulative imperialists.
Look, everybody's encountered someone like this. Be it in Magic the Gathering or a sporting event, basketball, golf, people who lie about their scores, people who slip cards on top of the deck, people who cheat because it's the fastest path towards victory. People cheat. They exist. And the Democratic Party represents the cheater coalition coalescing. I'm not going to give Republicans an easy pass on this one. The Republican Party's garbage for the most part. But Donald Trump represents something slightly different. But none of that actually matters. What matters is right now, sure, the Republicans have their bad elements, McCarthy, backroom deals. I'm glad Matt Gaetz got him ousted. But at least we chose who the candidate was going to be for us. And it was brutal. And friendships were lost. There were friendships that we had on this show for people who had come on this show, and we got into arguments over the Republican primary. The Democratic Party it's a cult. They've selected, they cheer, they're voting for nothing. There's no campaign promises. There's no policies. That's the terrifying reality right now.
You're talking about cheating and how, like, in games, you don't cheat. You know, sportsmanship is real in games. If you cheat, you honor. But in war, you cheat to win. You do whatever you got to do to win in war or you die.
There's no cheating in war.
Exactly. And that's how I think these politicians are treating it. It's like this is control of the military.
This is why I say Donald Trump lost in 2020. Joe Biden won. And it's because Republicans, it was really funny. We had a great super chat last night where they said that the Democrats are the Romulans and the Republicans are the Klingons. And for those that don't know anything about Star Trek, basically the Romulans in the series are dirty, deceitful, arrogant. They use false flag attacks. And the Klingons are an honor-bound race that couldn't dare, but they're actually still kind of corrupt. It's actually a pretty funny comparison for those that know. But Republicans are like, but we won the argument. We successfully argued our positions and everyone agreed with us. How did we lose? We didn't lose. You cheated. And the Democrats are like, all is fair in love and war. The Democrats were like, while you were so busy looking at the spirit of the rules, we rules lawyered to make sure we were going to win any way we could because power doesn't care how you got it. And the Republicans keep doing this, and I hope to God they're not doing it this time, where they're like, if we just argue again, we'll win. And Democrats are going, don't tell them anything. Don't give them policies. Don't give them a candidate. Just bring the ballots to the college room dorm and have them sign it and then mail it, and then we win. That's how you take power.
Yeah, and they use the fear of Trump to garner support, fear, and go.
I mean, it's all the Trump is Hitler stuff is all about background noise. So that when they go to a college dorm and knock on the door and say, "Hey, you guys voting for Kamala?" Joy and hope. And they're going to go, okay. And they're going to fill out the mail-in ballot. They're going to hand it to the ballot harvester. And that's the end of it.
I saw Harry Sisson, who I don't know him very well, but him and his buddy posted a Twitter thing about, we're voting for change. And I was like, oh my God, it's 2008 all over again.
Exactly.
What is changing? What are you talking about? Change into what? Change from what? What's going to happen? Change isn't always good.
This is the most amazing thing about having Biden speak first, which is if you listen to speak, a lot of speeches yesterday, they were like, hope and things are different and we're going to move forward. And then Biden got up and amongst a lot of stuff was like tying Kamala Harris very much to his political legacy. This is why he was the first night. They're trying to pretend like they're not the incumbent party so they can say things are going to get better. And we don't know why they're bad right now. Probably that mean Donald Trump, when actually they have been in control of the presidency for 4 years and Democratic policies have not done well for American families. You can ask them that, anytime anyone has to pay a grocery bill, I'm sure they are not thinking, thanks, Democrats.
Here's my campaign idea. It's to make, the Obama poster of hope? Make the same thing of Kamala Harris, but have it say change back. Because that's what they're actually offering. When they say change, it's change back. They want to go back to when Barack Obama was blowing up kids in foreign countries, was destabilizing the Middle East. Hillary Clinton was saying, we came, we saw, he died. Ha ha ha. Can't we just drone him? That's what they want to change. Yeah. They want to change it back to what we were doing then.
I think their goal of how to solve inflation is conquest. And that's been the goal for the last 15 years. We could retrofit our economy by fixing our fuel supply system and start using hydrogen fuel, like through the methane chain and just...
Now, hold on. Which candidate is that?
None of them. I haven't heard any of them talk about it yet.
Actually, unleash American energy in all its forms is Donald Trump's first campaign
Elon
proposal.
had Don Trump on his Twitter space, which was fascinating. I'm sure you guys covered it. I think you were actually listening to it. Don Trump. I like D-Bones. And they didn't bring up hydrogen or graphene. So that's my role in this whole process is I've got to re-enliven or inspire them to start talking about hydrogen and graphene because that's one way to fix the economy without having to conquest. Yeah.
And that's the first proposal from Trump's Agenda 47, which is unleash American energy, which includes nuclear power. And so, hey, that actually makes sense. That's an argument. We've got economic issues. How can we fix this? Lower the cost of energy, increase the supply of energy, and the costs stabilize. They don't necessarily always come down in a dramatic fashion, but it should lower costs typically. It should allow people to make more money and should help alleviate some of the problems.
Problem is limiting growth. I think this is the whole World Economic Forum. They say reduce population. They're just trying to limit growth because if humans grow too fast, they'll consume themselves or somebody will get too much power too quickly and start another war. Some corporation will become. So they want to limit growth. And the problem is if you unleash energy, completely unleash it, then there's no limitation on growth anymore and people might outgrow themselves. So that's the concern with fully unleashing the energy supply. I'm open to unleash probably isn't the right word because if you let a dog off the leash, there's no more control of the dog. You got to hope that it's trained and humans aren't trained. So
you're playing semantics now.
Well, yeah, but
he's saying let's invest in energy.
That's good, but there is this growth limitation thing that we got to take into account, and I kind of see that's my utilitarian understanding.
Elon Musk solves that problem.
How so?
You see that field of starships that he has?
No.
You didn't see the video? No. Where they're like showing he's got like 3 or 4 starships built and ready for testing because they go up and they blow up and they got to make them. Yeah, it's called human expansion as we've always done. And then the left is the party of, what's that book about the gorilla, psychic gorilla? Ishmael.
Hey, we should get it in here.
They're the party of degrowth. They want people to go back to living in the streams, in the rivers, in the caves. They want you to live in the pod and eat the bugs. Elon Musk, there's a reason why he's talking to Donald Trump. Donald Trump wants to unleash energy, wants human expansion. Human expansion is fantastic so long as it's technologically moving forward. So Elon Musk is like, hey, everything I want to do, the expansion of population, Elon Musk gets it. We need more people. Fact. The reason why and I was thinking about this, it's really funny. I was watching the Prestige. You ever see that movie?
No, I haven't.
With Edward, it's Christian Bale and Hugh Jackman. And they're talking about, they're magicians, they're doing stage shows, and it starts, Christian Bale's very poor, and he's doing this like poor show, but then he comes up with a really great trick, and now he's making money, and then he buys a house. It's fascinating. The shows back then, they've got 200 people in the audience, but if you did a show to 200 people, 4 or 5 nights a week, you were rich, you were buying a house and supporting a family. Doing magic? Go back 1,000 years and try and do magic for your tribe of 100 people. They're going to be like, we need food. Stop doing the weird thing with your hands. Go get food.
Unless you're making it rain.
When more, many hands make light work. And so the more people you have, the more specialties exist, the more technological expansion there can be. Elon gets the basic fundamentals of this. That's why Elon and Trump have found, strange bedfellows or whatever it may be. Elon wants to build spaceships and go to Mars and colonize and travel and human expansion. You need energy for that. You need technology for that. The party of live in the pod and eat the bugs are not going to bring you there. They're going to reduce population. They have a vasectomy truck at the DNC. This is not the path for human expansion. It's the path for human destruction.
Yeah, it's like an age of trust where we've got to trust that we can take the giant leap forward. Isn't that a Maoist revolutionary thing, the great leap forward? But we need some sort of evolution where we just breach the gap into maybe unlimited electricity. Unlimited, literally.
But it is interesting because Elon Musk is so drawn to innovation, and Trump has really innovated the Republican Party. I mean, I was listening to an interview with one of the DNC leadership members today, and she was asked directly, are we going to hear more about Kamala Harris's campaign policies because she doesn't have any listed, and or is the convention going to kind of set them? And she said, well, she represents the party and the party represents her. And it's this vague dodge answer. There is more cohesion around the way the DNC, in my opinion, and you would maybe have a better insight than I would, Brandon, but the way it has always been, whereas Elon Musk, Donald Trump, and the Republicans are really going through an evolutionary expansion process. Like, they are changing as the world is changing. And I don't think that's true for Democrats right now.
Yeah, I mean, I personally have issues with the Republican Party not keeping up with the times. I definitely agree. I think that Trump is bringing us more in that direction. But I actually wanted to address something you were saying earlier when you were talking about the issues that are driving people, I think, away from Kamala. I've been staying in New York for a couple of weeks, and I actually have had a couple of experiences there that I thought were really eye-opening and a little bit reassuring. I'm staying in a hotel. There's 3 people who work at the hotel who all happen to be Hispanic people working behind the front desk. I've been wearing my Trump shirts every day in New York just to kind of gauge what the people on the street are feeling and getting a lot of really positive reaction to them. But when I was at the hotel, one of the shirts I have is a picture of Trump, and he's putting up 2 middle fingers that says one for Biden, one for Harris. So one of the girls behind the desk says to me, "Your shirt is really funny." And I was like, "Oh, you like it?" And she was like, "Yeah." And I said, "Are you into politics?" And she's like, "Yeah, a little bit." And I said, "Were you ever a Democrat?" And she was like, "Oh yeah, I was a Democrat my whole life." And I said, "Are you planning to vote for Trump?" And she was like, "Well, yeah, I actually think I am." Now, this, again, 3 young, Hispanic people. And I just said, that's reassuring, because I think, I'm a little bit concerned right now about where we are. And she said to me, she's like, "Oh, no. Kamala's not going to win. Kamala's not going to win." She said, "Nobody in New York is going to vote for Kamala. Everyone in New York is leaving the Democratic Party. People are totally sick of what's going on right now." So I don't know. I walk around and people are loving my Trump shirts. And I think that there's more of us than people think.
Secret Trump voters. But let's jump to the story from Watcher Guru. Kamala Harris supports President Biden's 44.6% capital gains tax proposal. This from a couple of days ago. They say that Vice President Kamala Harris has declared her support for Biden's 44.6% capital gains. The proposal would be the highest in history. It also includes a 25% tax on unrealized gains for high net worth individuals, more than $100 million in wealth. Harris's campaign shared support for the tax proposal as the 2024 DNC is underway. Harris spoke Monday at the event in Chicago along with President Biden. The Democratic nominee has also proposed tax cuts beyond Biden's budget. These include an exemption for tipped workers, a $6,000 tax credit for parents of newborns, and an expanded child tax credit that the Biden budget doesn't extend beyond 2025. She also proposed bumping the corporate tax rate to 28%. Her campaign said Monday the current corporate tax rate is 21%. It's down from 35% after Donald Trump signed the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which will expire after 2025. Now, I can't speak for every company, but I want to make a few points here. For us, if the corporate tax rate goes up, look, we reinvest everything, right? So when money comes in, we figure out ways to spend it on the company, hiring people, creating jobs. Everything we do results in more people having a job. So if we're going to say build a new studio like we did, we're hiring the contractors that we work with. They get paid. They feed their families. It works out. That's the economy works. So I don't really care that much about corporate tax rate stuff because as long as companies are reinvesting anyway, all it means is you're shaving off a thin amount of their margins, but that could put them at risk, and it will result in increased prices then because of an obligation to the shareholders at larger corporations. So for us, But I want to talk about this. This is the big news that's actually going viral. The unrealized gains tax, the wealth tax, they call it. They're saying right now it's for those with more than $100 million in wealth, which is very, very few people, but this is how it begins. Income tax, as many people know, began as a small tax on the ultra wealthy, and it expanded all the way up until where we're at right now. Here's the easy way to understand it. If 100 years ago, they were like, anybody making more than $250,000, we're going to put a tax on that. You're rich. You make $250,000 a year. I mean, and we're talking 100 years ago. That ain't nothing. That's massive. I think that's the equivalent to hundreds of millions of dollars per year or some ridiculous number. So, or not hundreds of millions, but probably tens of millions. What happens 100 years later? That upper limit for the tax bracket still there, doesn't change. So I'll put it this way. I don't believe the number will stay at 100 million. It will be reduced. It will go down to 50 or 25. It's never going to make enough money. But I tell you this, imagine this scenario. This is why wealth taxes don't work. You buy a house. The house costs $5 million. We're talking 30 years from now, $5 million. And with the way they spend money, and inflation is exponential. So you live in this house for 10 years on a 30-year mortgage. Now it's $50 million. We're talking hyperinflation. Maybe I shouldn't go that crazy. Let's just talk about general wealth tax. Let's say you buy a $5 million house in 10 years from now or 20 years from now, and because inflation is that bad, and then it goes up to $6 million. And you're like, I don't know, man. I just bought a house. I got a mortgage. It's a 30-year mortgage. I got to pay my bills. I'm paying 15, like some ridiculous thousands of dollars every month. It's just really difficult for me. Then the government comes to you and says, you just made $1 million. No, I didn't. I bought a house. I live in the house. I'm like, yeah, but it's worth $1 million more. That's a 20% increase. You got to pay us 25% of the, so we're going to need that $250,000 from you in taxes. And you go, I don't have that. I have a loan on a house. I have the liabilities. I didn't make any money. And they go, well, you did. And so what do? You can't sell your house. You know why? Your house went up in value, so did every single other house. Let me do this. Let me just say, let's say in today's numbers, $500,000 for a house. You buy it, a couple years go by it the way they're spending money, and now it's $600,000. You owe $25,000 on the unrealized gain. You can't sell your house because every other house on the street went up the same price. So if you sold, you owe the government money on the return, and you can't buy a comparable house because they're all the same $600,000. So it's not possible.
If the value of a commodity goes up because of inflation, that's considered a gain? That's insane. So they can inflate the entire economy by 10% and then tax everyone on that 10%.
Yep. Intentionally do it. If they get away with this and they say it's only for $100 million, and then this country experiences extreme hyperinflation, you could accidentally find yourself in a very high bracket. Now, don't get me wrong. The amount of inflation you'd need to reach $100 million net worth is psychotic. And if every average American was worth $100 million, their money's worth nothing. So I'm not saying we get there. I'm saying 10 years from now, they say we're going to make it 75 and no one bats an eye. Then they're going to say it's 50, then 30, then 20, then 10. And at that point, inflation is starting to meet that cap. And now you're getting more and more people roped into this. All that matters is we cannot ever allow or support unrealized gains taxes because it's fundamentally flawed. It doesn't make sense. For people who own a house, think about what a house was worth in the 60s. What were they? A few $1,000s? Right. And now we're talking 3 generations later, that house is $300,000. So, I mean, seriously, what was it like? You have these ads from back in the 40s, 50s. It's like, buy a house for $10,000 today. Now those houses are $600,000. Think about where you end up and how much a house is going to cost in 20 or 30 years. It really could be a $500,000 house becomes a $2 million house in 20 years. And then you're going to have people who are business owners, and we're talking medium level businesses at this point, and it's over $100 million. And they're going to start taxing. It's putting a cap. This is a path over the long period of time towards a communist system that stops people from reaching a certain level of wealth and power.
Has there ever been an unrealized gains tax in the U.S. before?
I'm not aware of one. There may have been a long time ago. I don't think so.
Okay. My parents bought their house in 1980 for $40,000. I'm going to try and figure out what it's worth today.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
40,000 in 1980.
40,000.
Wow.
I knew someone who's was.
How many square feet is it?
I don't know.
So this would be an annual tax that you have to pay on money that you don't really have.
Yes. Yeah,
It's crazy because people have been forced to sell commodities just to pay the tax on the commodity itself.
That's what they're saying.
And
That's
It's not,
insane.
but understand, thing about houses people don't get. If your house goes up in value, that means every other house went up in value. If you sold your house, you're going to lose money on fees. And if you want to buy another house, you've got to pay fees, which means this would cause extreme hyperinflation. The market would go insane. I have to imagine it just might become oligarchy. Only the wealthy corporations with Federal Reserve funding are going to be able to buy properties. They say you owe 25 grand in your house, otherwise we're seizing it. So you sell your house, then you go, okay, well, now we've got $575,000, but every comparable house is $600K plus the fees for the real estate agent and the lawyers. So we can only really afford a $500,000 house, which is smaller than the house we were just in. So you buy that one. A year later, now that house is $600. And you go, rinse and repeat. Your house is getting smaller and smaller and smaller every step of the way.
And BlackRock's buying up houses, and they're getting the printed money from the Federal Reserve first.
And then charging rent to people.
My parents' house, by the way, was $40,000 in 1980. It's $200,000 now. So that's a 5 times increase in 40 years.
But your house,
It
your
happens
home,
exponentially, it goes up.
your home would never really appreciate in that scenario, then, right? I mean, because you're always owing money.
Yep.
I mean, you're just losing money.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wealth tax makes literally no sense.
By the time you get old and sell your home, you've spent so much money on these that you've appreciated nothing.
But Tim, we want to tax the wealthy. They have unfair advantages.
And so the issue is they won't generate money from this. Let's cut the middle class out of the question and just say right now they're saying 100 people worth $100 million or more. Very few people have that net worth. All they're really saying is we are putting a cap on wealth. That's all it is. If you have more than 100 million, we are taking it all from you and you can only have 100 million is what they're saying. That's it.
And then people will like move their home
Exactly.
base to
Yep.
Europe or to
Indeed.
the Bahamas or wherever the hell. Like, I don't know. Where was that?
As they do.
South America, Central America somewhere where
Panama?
the Russians were holding. Yeah, was it Panama where they were holding all that money?
A lot of people were holding money. The Panama Papers went viral.
Yeah.
People were hiding assets offshore.
Panama.
Yeah, that's how they do it. All that means is it would decenter the United States.
That's the problem with them raising the corporate tax too, is corporations will up and leave. Trump lowering the corporate tax got a bunch of corporations to come back. I don't have the exact numbers, but it got corporations to reinstate their headquarters in the United States.
So the issue with corporate tax, this is the craziest thing. If you got a business and in 1 month, let's say you're a restaurant, you do 100,000 in sales. You then have to pay all your staff and all your costs. And let's say it's, I don't know, $80,000. You get paid a salary because you're the manager or whatever. And you might be making, $200,000 a year or whatever. So the rest goes to you and you have almost no profit. So that little bit of profit goes into the bank and you're like, we need to build up a rainy day fund. In the event that sales dip for 1 month, we can cover the cost of our fixed costs. So let's say you get to the point where you got a restaurant and you're operating at a 2 to 3% margin. So you're getting a couple grand per month that you're putting away. And you're like, we need to build up our coffers for rainy day so that when there's a downturn or recession, we can keep paying our employees. We don't got a business. We can cover our plumbing, our heat. January comes around, December 31st, and the IRS says, how much did you make? And you go, well, I mean, we've got about 30,000 left over. It's profit, but we need that in case of emergencies. And the government says, we don't care. Give it to us. And they take a quarter of it. This is the craziest thing. Running a business every year when you're like, our margins are not that good. We need this money in case of emergency, and the government takes it from you. And I'm like, that's nuts. What happens if we lose a sponsor? What happens if we get suspended for a week or something and we don't have any money anymore? The IRS is taxing money, and we need that money to operate. It's insane how corporate taxes work. Just January, there you go. And actually, for a lot of businesses, you pay quarterly. And then, come April, it's like, here's the full bill. So already the system is insane and very difficult to navigate.
Yeah,
let alone doing this.
Serge, before the show, mentioned digital serfdom, or that like modern day serfdom, to think that people will be shoved into like a permanent state of rental class and businesses, middle class businesses would be shut down so that giant oligarchical corporations can control the organization and the structure. I don't know if that's what they intentionally want or if these people are just ignorantly guiding people towards inflation and
we got a super chat from Gary Hardy that actually exemplifies the problem very well. He says, our taxes do go up every year based on inflation. It's called property tax. It's a tax on unrealized gains. 100% correct. That's basically already how it functions. And this is why, and this system already exists. So take a look at rural land. Watch the show Yellowstone. Have you guys ever watched Yellowstone? Mm-hmm. They make a point of this, very, very much so. So they own, what is it, like 7,000 acres? Mm-hmm. Is that what it is?
Some huge amount.
Some 700,000. I think it's more than 7. I think it's like 700,000 of land or something. And they got to pay taxes on it. And they're like, if the ranch doesn't make enough money to cover the cost of taxes, then they're going to take the land from us. So they discuss parceling land to sell to cover the taxes. Extremely common. It's how people lose the land that their parents owned. So if you look at rural properties, you'll notice like there'll be an area of some rural area, and it'll be like a 50-acre property, and then you'll notice it's oddly shaped, and there's a row of developments along one side. And then you look at the property history, and what happens is 300 years ago, some guy walks a piece of land, puts a fence around it, nobody lives there, and he's like, I'm going to farm here. And he does. Nobody bats an eye. 100 years go by, and they show up and they say, is this your land? Well, if you're taking this much land from the community and from the town, you got to pay taxes on it. And say, sure. 100 years goes by, and what happens is, if your farm generates, let's say, I don't know, $10,000 a month or whatever, feeds your family, and you get a little bit extra for knickknacks or whatever, then the government comes and says, well, the property's massive, and we could put factories on it. It's got to be worth at least $1 million, so you owe us 30 grand. And you go, I don't make enough to pay that. And they go, find it, or we're seizing the whole property. So they take an acre of their farm and they sell it to a developer who then puts a house on it. Then they use that money to pay the taxes. Next year, same thing. Sell an acre, pay the taxes. Over a long enough period of time, the property completely disappears and the family has lost everything.
The Dutton Ranch is 776,000 acres, and it's compared. There's a line in the show where John Dutton says that he owns a ranch the size of Rhode Island.
Yep.
So,
and a point of the show is when they say you got to pay taxes on it. And this is how the people want to steal his land. They're like, this is the attack vector. He won't be able to pay the taxes on it. They'll have to start parceling land, and it will destroy the ranch. This is what happens now. This unrealized gains tax is a layer on top of that already. And Gary points out perfectly, this literally already happens. You buy a house. Let's say you work at a job and you get paid $70,000 a year and you got a $300,000 house. Then one day they come and they say your house is worth $400,000 now, so we're increasing your property tax by 25%. You go, I don't make that much money. Like I didn't get a 25% raise. How am I going to pay an increase on my taxes like this? So you go to your boss. I got to make more money or else. You will own nothing and you will eat the bugs. That's what they're doing.
If they're going to do an unrealized gains tax, you've got to account for inflation, and you've got to reduce the value of the inflation from the cost.
But you're acting like they're playing fair.
I know. That would be like the righteous thing to do. But if it's actually a government ploy to take land from the citizenry and redistribute it, or say, hey, we have 10% more people this year because of population expansion. We can't let you have 700 acres anymore. Split some off for these new people. I mean, I get the concept utilitarianly, but it's pretty dirty.
The funny thing is, people don't know what bourgeois means or bourgeoisie. Do you guys know what it means?
It's like wealthy. It was a French thing.
No, it doesn't mean wealthy.
No, just middle class.
Yep, it means middle class. So when the communists talk about the bourgeois, they're not talking about the wealthy people. They're talking about middle class Americans, people working managerial jobs and trying to have a family. That's what they're talking about. They want to take that from you. You're the bad guy. You're the problem. Cernovich tweets, communists do not hate the wealthy. As long as they decide who is at the top, Reid Hoffman, Bill Gates, Mark Cuban, they can do whatever they like as long as they play ball and share any lie from the regime. If you own a home, you are the rich that communists will destroy. And that's why in China, you can't own property. You can lease it. And it's turned over after 99 years. I think it's 99 years.
I think this is sort of the lie of the Harris-Walz campaign. And as we can see, the Harris-Walz campaign is effectively still the Biden-Harris campaign in a lot of ways. They're going to say over and over again, well, we're for the working class. We're for the working class. And Trump, he doesn't understand, and we're for you. But if they were ever asked specific questions about the policies that they back up, you would see that that's not the case. I mean, it's not enough to just pick the, white guy from the Midwest and say, oh, we're for average Americans. You have to actually have that in policy. And I think the economy is one of these buzzword issues for this campaign in particular, where they're like, well, we don't want the wealthy to win, and whatever. They'll throw things around, but there's no explanation of what their plan is. And I think that is largely because ultimately they are going to increase taxes in a way that'll hurt the working class that they don't want to admit to.
Let's jump to these tweets, talk a little bit about the DNC. So we have these tweets. Matt, this is, I don't know who this person is, Beth Davidson, seemingly nobody, but she must be at the convention. She says, fam, Matt Walsh is at the Democrat convention posing as a delegate. Do not talk to him. Call him out. Tell security if you can. Please reshare to spread the word. He's got credentials.
Hashtag hate monger.
He got in. Keith Olbermann says, we knew it was Matt Walsh because he covered up his 5 head. This dude says, yo, that's Matt Walsh in disguise on the convention floor. He's got a pass.
Yeah, what do they think is going to happen if there's a Republican in their midst?
Charlie Kirk is walking around.
He's chilling,
Panicking.
Yeah.
listening to people, having a decent conversation.
Here's the crazy thing about this. Charlie Kirk is there. He's talking to people. A lot of people are yelling at him, which is nuts. But how come this didn't happen at the RNC?
Right.
No. Like, not only do we have the riots outside, and it's low tier stuff, but they did tear down the barricades and breach the perimeter. So I'm calling that a riot. And protests and clashes, 13 arrests. At the RNC, you had none of this. You had a light protest. Nothing really happened. There may have been arrests. I don't know. Nothing was really eventful, and no one really cared about it. I walked past it, and nothing seemed. I don't know. Nobody said anything to me. At the RNC, there were no. I didn't see any crazy Democrats running around. Nobody was screaming at anybody. Cenk Uygur in 2016 Jimmy Dore spat on Alex Jones. There was that kind of stuff. I didn't see anything at the RNC. Liberals didn't show up to question Republicans. Nothing that I saw.
I think it's because this sect of people that are supporting the Democratic Party feel as though they've been fortified, that their system is fortified and ready to win. They're a cult. They're not in to try and mess with the other. They don't feel like they need to. They feel like they've got it in the bag, maybe.
I think it's that they don't want to hear what's going on at the RNC. They want to hear it through the lens of the media, and they don't want to be in the presence of hate or whatever. Whereas, conservatives actually find it. They've seen a lot of success by going inside, events that are not typically open to them. I'm thinking of, the family friendly, quote unquote, drag performances, and you'll get these on the ground reportings where it's like, is this what you're describing as family friendly?
The more they see,
yeah. I think it's. This is why I don't call it the left and the right at all. I don't feel like it's even. I feel like I'm interested in knowing what is really happening, so I want to investigate the empire and the imperial strategy, and that leads me towards investigating the Democratic Party and what the hell is going on with this American arm of the the Western Empire.
There's a video. You can see Matt Walsh right here with his little red hat walking around.
He posts some of the most. What would you call it? Scathing stuff on Twitter where I'm like,
there he is.
where I'm like, I don't like, he'll post stuff on Twitter. And I'm like, I don't, Matt, I don't want to read it. I don't want to look at it, but he constantly makes me love the man. I love him.
Wait, is the camera panning to try and get Matt Walsh again?
No, I think they're trying to get him out of the shot.
Gets the blame for a lot of things he does do. He's lost his bearings, as we can see.
So subtle.
It's funny because he's there officially, I bet. Daily Wire applied for credentials. They said yes, same as Charlie Kirk. He showed up dressed like that, and now they're all losing their minds.
And you have to hand it to Matt Walsh. This is obviously promotional for his new movie. This is hilarious marketing, right? Like, he's not even there necessarily to change any hearts and minds. He's there to sort of be himself, and they're freaking out about it.
Like Borat.
Well, it is because it does look like a costume too. Like, if I saw that person, I'd be like, that person doesn't look right to me. Like,
well, his hat is elevated over his wig. It's not really fitting correctly.
Okay, so now I definitely wish I was there after seeing this. I'm like, okay, that would have been fun. But I don't want to be anywhere near outside, and getting to and from seems crazy. So no DNC for us.
Probably would have been really cool now in retrospect. Charlie Kirk's a master, man, and I think his history will look back on him fondly for his reaching across the aisle and his consistent olive branches that he's willing to offer.
Maybe it doesn't turn out so bad, but I'm still worried about the riots. There's Democrats getting hotels and fake names. The amount of security stuff we would have had to have done I just didn't find it to be worth it to go to the DNC. In Chicago, of all places, dude. You get shot in Chicago and they say just another weekend.
What did you guys think of the RNC? I didn't
Boring.
know, but was it?
Oh, I thought it was interesting. I mean, the hard thing about doing IRL is that we're working when a lot of the speeches are going on. But I think there was a lot of really interesting energy. One of the critiques one of the analysis that I was listening to of the DNC today was they had Steve Kerr, I think is his name. He's the coach who coached the
Golden State
Yeah, and he
Warriors.
was just at the Olympics with the Team USA, and they had him up, and they're saying, I was listening to this New York Times analysis, and they were like, yeah, because Democrats feel like the Republicans have really taken control of red, white, and blue, and they're trying to offer their own version of patriotism, which means that really the RNC set the tone, and in so many ways the DNC is responding to them. I mean, Trump tweeted that thing where he's like, this is how many times they mentioned my name last night. It really is, everybody is, Trump is really in charge of this election in a way that I don't think Harris is. She is a response to the Trump campaign always. She is never leading any policy here.
Let me say this really quick. I saw this one video of Kamala where a reporter challenged her and she was like, do you want Trump to win? Like, she got really mad.
Yeah, I saw that.
You saw that? That was crazy. And it was the only time I've seen her get upset so far. I haven't watched a lot of it, but it was very obvious that she doesn't want to be challenged. Don't challenge the royalty right now. We just need to
Well, and what is that saying? Do you want this terrible person to win? That means you're a bad person. That's how she's shutting people down. That's not effective. Sorry, you're going to say something?
No, it's okay. I was just going to say I kind of feel the opposite of the way that you feel in terms of them controlling the tone and whatnot. Because if you remember, the RNC happened so shortly after Trump got shot. In fact, I think it was the first time we saw him after he got shot. And the Democrats now, I think in retrospect, it was tactical. I mean, of course, nothing they do is sincere. But at the time, they were kind of playing this game let's all take the volume down a little bit, and let's turn things down, turn down the heat. And then Trump came out, and I don't feel like we strategized well about what our message was going to be after Trump got assassinated. I think there were a lot of opportunities there that were absolutely missed. And he came out and he had this kind of docile, very sort of soft, gentle tone. And the Democrats were keeping that too. But then it's as soon as we got through that, they started pouncing again. And now they're right back to the same rhetoric. I mean, from the speeches that I saw that happened last night, I caught clips. I mean, they're back to saying, what a dangerous threat he is to America and that he must be neutralized. He must be. So, I mean, we're right back to, and I feel like they are controlling the tone. And I feel like we missed our opportunity.
I think that they do have a strong, they have pivoted really well. As soon as they dropped Biden and they were we're rolling out this prosecutor and he's a felon, they did go back on the attack. I actually am not sure all Americans appreciate that. I think a lot of people are still thinking about the assassination attempt and think that there's sort of a gravity there. But, it is fascinating to me that there was a USA chant there. And that's actually, to me, Republicans are the patriotic party right now. I don't think that was always true. I think there was a time when, Democrats and Republicans had a lot more in common. But, in our modern day era, it's just not the same thing.
Right.
And I think that all of this, this whole moment in time for them is not possible without Trump. Whereas, and I get what you mean, Trump did come out a little bit softer. He was a little more emotional, a little more reflective. But he had said, I'm not going to mention Biden during this speech. He said his name one time. And a lot of people followed suit. I do think that if Trump weren't in this election for whatever reason, not because of the assassination, because he wasn't eligible to run or something like that, I don't know what the Democrats would do without him. I don't think that they have a strategy other than panic about Trump. And it's interesting to see every time the Republicans offer up a policy, it's just like the Trump Vance campaign, we still don't get anything from Harris unless it's sort of I'm also not going to tax tips or
copying.
You say $5,000, JD Vance, for parents with young children. Well, I say $6,000. It is very much following the Trump Vance campagin.
100%. And to your point about them chanting USA and it being kind of bizarre and disingenuous and stuff, I mean, I've actually questioned recently if this is a giant psyop, that they're really appropriating our culture. I don't know if you're noticing this. Overnight, they are. Overnight, she's doing Trump rallies. Overnight, they're chanting USA. They're chanting lock him up.
No tax on tips.
Yeah. His policies. And I'm are they trying to drive us insane? Out of one side of their mouth.
They can see what's working and they're we're going to do that now.
Yeah. But either way, it's all theater. I mean, it's completely fake.
It's smart. They know that their cult will vote for them no matter what. And so steal the policies of the right and try and get as many moderates as possible.
I'm sorry.
No, I agree with you. I think that there is a posturing for moderates, but it's interesting that they're not offering anything new. They are copying Trump. And again, that just to me says that he lives rent free in everybody's brains, and he will do until he can't run for president anymore.
I'm going to stress it. They are evil people. You want an example? Joe Biden leading with the very fine people hoax. After 7 years, we know it's not true. Listen to the full C-SPAN interview Trump gave, and it was comprehensive, intelligent, and measured. Trump's response could not have been more perfect. He said there were bad people in the masks. There were neo-Nazis. They were bad people. And there were some people who got a permit. They wanted to protest. They were angry that the statue was coming down. And that's fine. They're allowed to do it. They have the First Amendment. But there were bad people on both sides. There were some good people on both sides. He actually didn't just say one simple sentence. He actually said, I saw the same videos. We know what happened. Bad actors are ruining this stuff. And he said, if you would report this accurately, people would know. And what did they do? They lied. Mm-hmm. Trump asked them to report it accurately, and they lied. And Biden, to this day, spits on the face of every single one of these voters, and they bask in it.
Can you tell me really fast what that is, that hoax? Because I have not looked into the very
Charlottesville,
fine people. Yeah.
There was a statue that was going to be pulled down by protesters. There were counter-protesters saying, do not pull down the statue. They were going to rename a park. It was Robert E. Lee Park or something like this in the statue. The far left wanted to tear it down. There were people on the right who didn't want it. Then you had Antifa show up, and then you had white nationalists show up. There was a massive clash. People started fighting. Fighting broke out, and it resulted in a guy in a car driving into a crowd of people, killing a woman, and this is the Charlottesville moment. Donald Trump gave a press conference right afterwards and said, you had a lot of bad people there. There were bad people on both sides. You had the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists. You had the left with the wearing all black with baseball bats. Did you see them? And he said, but you also had some very fine people. On both sides. Some who were protesting a statue coming down. And they had a permit, by the way. And they have a First Amendment right to peacefully, the right way, protest this. And then someone then asks him a question. And he says, no, I am not talking. He says there were very fine. Someone goes, you're saying there's very fine people? Literally asks him. And the neo-Nazi goes, no. I'm saying there were people there with a permit to protest. I am not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists. They should be condemned totally.
Oh, man. And then they kept running that he called the neo-Nazis very fine people.
Right.
Or the animals quote. He called immigrants animals.
Yeah.
He literally was talking about drug-dealing, child trafficking murderers. And he says, these people killing children, they're not people, they're animals. And they went, oh, and they cut him going, they're not people, they're animals. That's the only thing.
MS-13. He was talking about MS-13.
And also, we're all animals. Like, come on, get over it,
Yeah, but you get the
guys.
point.
Yeah.
He was saying that the cartels who traffic children are animals, who kill people and murder them.
It's really
They
fascinating
lied.
to be paying attention, to see it happening in real time, like the manipulation. Like Goebbels, the Nazi propagandist, would be like, you just tell them a lie over enough times and people will believe it.
Goebbels would be sitting here clapping for the Democrats, being like, wow. Look how long they've maintained this. And here's an important thing to understand. They say that every 7 years, every cell in your body has been replaced, right? Like the ship of Theseus, you're a new person. Democrats live in a world now where it has been, 9 years of lies about Donald Trump. Every fiber of their being at this point is composed of fake information. Their entire worldview crafted off of high-level propagandistic manipulation from the Democratic Party. It's the only thing they know.
Assisted by the media. Very few mainstream media outlets covered the fact that during Biden's speech, there was a banner dropped down that said stop funding Israel or something like that. It's a pro-Palestine or at least anti-Israel sentiment. And very few mainstream media outlets that I have seen talked about the fact that there's a Native Americans rights group that has allied themselves with the pro-Palestinian people saying, this land, the DNC is operating on stolen land, and therefore we protest this, and we stand with people in Palestine who are having, their land stolen, or, whatever the sentiment is. It's fascinating to me that they completely block out any discord within their own party, meaning that they don't want the average leans left, not super political voter to know, hey, actually we have tons of chaos, and people within your own party think we might be the ethical wrong.
This is the challenge right now with Trump sycophants and the unwillingness or the inability of Trump's campaign to call up the surrogates and tell them to shut the living F up when they attack moderates. Because I just watched a clip, as I mentioned earlier, from Joe Rogan's show, where he's like, it's all tribalism, it's my team, it's your team. It isn't, but Joe doesn't live in the same political world entrenched like we do. That's why he says, I don't know, talk to Dave Smith, I'm not a political guy. Joe certainly knows more than most people when he calls out the weird absurdities of the media, but when Trump sycophants attack Joe, he just immediately backs away and says, guys, you're all nuts. The reality is Trump's imperfect. Of course he is. The Republicans suck. Of course they do. But we really are looking at a party that has been lying, cheating, and stealing for who knows how long, but it's been particularly bad in the past decade. And we are in desperate need of some accountability and a functioning government to probably criminally charge those who have broken the law. You can't really go after the media for lying. You're allowed to. It's the First Amendment. But we need accountability. We need good governance. We need to fire those in the entrenched bureaucracy. And so when Trump's sycophants attack moderates, you lose support. And this is the most frustrating thing right now.
And the lying and the cheating, the lie was before the Democratic Party, like in 2011. It was the Republican Party with the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, like the imperialists that wanted to conquer.
And Trump isn't that party, and they hate him.
He's an outsider.
And that's why when Trump got elected, you had the Republican Party with, what's his face? Paul Ryan. And I think it was in the time, Boehner. They did not like Donald Trump. They actually worked with Democrats on the Russiagate hoax when Trump got in 2017. And then in 2018, we saw a little bit of a change, kind of. Democrats, I think in 2018, Democrats came back into Congress. So the Republicans had Congress for that first year of Trump's term. They did nothing. And look where we are now. So I don't care if the Republican Party. The Republican Party in 2000s I thought was trash. Barack Obama turned out to be trash. The Democrats are trash. And then Trump and Bernie came in. Bernie lost. Trump represented populism and what people don't want war. They don't want these garbage trade agreements. Trump came in. Civil war in the Republican Party, still sort of going on. And I'll take it. My point with Joe is I should be able to have a conversation with someone like Joe and have him just be like, dude, I get it, man. You know, there's no one else to vote for. Instead, Trump's cult, and I'm not saying everyone who supports Trump is a cult. I'm saying these diehard lunatics push even him away.
No, I get it. I totally get it. And I think that sect of his base, that it's the constant loyalty tests and purity tests, and that if you dare to ask any questions or express anything that you might, have a question about, or you're dissatisfied with it, and then suddenly everybody's turning on you. You're not like a real Trump supporter. This happened to me.
It's wokeness. It's the same thing.
It's totally the same. It's what
cancel culture garbage.
It's what pushed me away from the Democratic Party when I'm not allowed to ask questions and think for myself. And Vivek's campaign, when he was still running, did a really great thing. They started reaching out to influencers, which I wish Trump's campaign would do more of. But they had reached out to me and said, you want to spend the day with Vivek on the bus, get to know him better, ask him questions, interview him. I was like, of course I'm going to say yes. And I knew at that time I was planning to support Trump, but I wanted, of course I'm going to say yes to the opportunity to get to know the guy. Spent the day with Vivek, had a great day, interviewed him on camera, put it out there, and people started getting really angry at me because I spent the day with Vivek. And I'm like, yeah, but I had a great time. I really, and then very shortly after that, it was right before the Iowa caucus. Vivek did better than people expected. And Trump basically, in typical Trump fashion, put out a comment like, Vivek's not really one of us. He's not MAGA. I had all of these people attacking me because I had spent the day with Vivek before Trump said that. And like people unfollowing me and stuff. And then Vivek dropped out. And then like 2 days later, Trump was like, just kidding. Vivek's awesome. And then, but that drove me nuts. I was like, this feels exactly like why I left the left.
It's cancel culture.
Yeah.
It is the pile on, fall in line, or else. And I think it's important that Trump's most ardent base recognize they win by alliances with moderates. And if you want to play these games where you insult the moderates, you're going to lose. Because there's a lot of people vote emotionally. That's what the Democrats have proven. And we're trying to convince as many middle of the road people that, man, it's life or death. I mean, look, I got to be honest. Even if Trump wins, there's no guarantee that we're going to actually get a functional vote count or anything like that. Who knows what's going to happen January 6, 2025? Because Kamala is going to be counting she's going to be counting the electors, and Congress Jamie Raskin's already said they're going to block Trump if he does win. Biden claims he's going to try and take power even if he loses. And so my point ultimately is this: I shouldn't be listening to Joe Rogan, who correctly calls out Fauci, who correctly calls out the Democrat installing Kamala, who then says, yeah, but they're all just my team, this team, that team, whatever, man. It's because they attack him. He's a regular guy. He's not focused on politics. He's a very, very smart guy. As much as he likes to say, like, I'm just some dumb podcaster, the dude's a genius. But this is not his world. His world is comedy. So when he wakes up one day and he's getting Trump tweeting at him that they're going to boo him at UFC, he's like, these people are nuts. And he's not wrong, but Trump still has to win. And that's the unfortunate thing. It should be easy for me to go to someone who's like, man, I don't like Trump's people. And I'm like, I know, but you got to vote for him because you're looking at the Democrats and and it should be as simple like, I get it. The Mises Caucus people, who was it? Jeremy Kaufman? Is that his name? I'm getting his name right?
Jeremy Kaufman.
He held up the sign saying MAGA equals socialism at the Libertarian Party. He doesn't want to vote for Donald Trump. And then once Chase Oliver gets nominated, he says, I guess I'm voting for Donald Trump because I'm not going to vote for a race communist or whatever. And I'm like, see, that's reality. It sucks, but we really are in dude, most elections, I'd have no problem being a libertarian. I don't care, two-party, whatever. But now it really is hyper-polarized to an extreme degree. The Republican Party, you vote for your candidate. Then there's a brutal friends become enemies. And then afterwards, enemies are still, friends are not enemies again. Friendships were lost in that primary battle with DeSantis and Trump. But a vote was had, and a lot of DeSantis supporters came around and said, okay, fine, I'll vote for Trump, but I'm mad at you guys and I hate this. And I'm like, well, that's how it goes. The Democrats installed Kamala and said, join or else. And they're cheering for a woman who has no campaign. Yep. She has no policies, no positions, and they're cheering for it. There's a couple. She's supporting the tax thing from Joe Biden. And she said no taxes on tips, which is contradictory, I guess. But there's no campaign policies on her website. They don't know what they're cheering for. You had Taylor Hansen at the convention asking what they're supporting. They have no answer. None whatsoever. They're like, she's just a good leader. And, Trump's going to take our freedoms. They have no idea what they're supporting. So you may not like the guy, but this is not your typical Obama versus McCain day or whatever, where McCain's like, no, my opponent's a good man. We just disagree on a few issues. It's literally an installed candidate and voting for a system in which they do not actually have real representation of the American people and voting for a system that does.
It's the first time in my life I've ever felt like I'm actually voting to resist imperial authoritarianism. Like it's more clear than ever that the liberal economic order is like a British-centric American Five Eyes empire. That is, they stopped calling themselves the British Empire in 1997. They rebranded as the United Kingdom now or whatever. King of Kings, he is now. Xerxes, he's like the emperor still, Charles. And it's like, we got to shake it loose. The Federal Reserve was like a strategy for the bankers to take control. The business plot in 1933, I think it was, they wanted to overthrow the government, install fascist dictatorship in the U.S., failed. Smedley Butler wouldn't go for it. But we got to shake loose. And I think it's civil disobedience is the way loose. I don't think we can actively, aggressively knock it loose. And the British are great allies to be, human wise, we're very good. We're very friendly with the British. I like every English guy I know, pretty much I get along with for the most part.
Looks like, sorry, riots are starting to break out right now.
What's going on?
Police are fighting with protesters. This is like 10 minutes ago. Unsurprising. Sorry.
Yeah, who knows if it's a controlled opposition, what's going on, but I'm sure it'll develop as it goes on.
I think there are serious protesters who have issues with the Democratic Party. They just happen to be from the left. Well, the left doesn't, the mainstream media doesn't talk about the fact that it's left-wing people protesting.
This is it. This is the imperial authoritarian. They're trying to conquer the Middle East, and people on both sides of the aisle a lot of people don't want that, and they want it to stop too.
And right, so what happens? George W. Bush and Barack Obama represent very little difference to me. Obama carried out the same policies, destabilizing the Middle East. Under George W. Bush, you get Iraq and Afghanistan. Under Barack Obama, you got what? You got Libya, you got Syria, you got more Afghanistan. I mean, it exacerbated quite a bit. You got the rise of ISIS. Donald Trump comes in, done. No new wars, troop withdrawals, peace agreements. Trump was not supposed to win, and we can all plainly see it. Decades of military expansion. I mean, Desert Storm, you go back decades. And the liberal economic order, H.W. Bush, all these people knew exactly what they wanted and exactly what they were doing, and we got it. And then Trump comes in and goes, no, we're shutting that down. And they lost their minds. They said he's a traitor. He's a Russian spy. He should destroy America. Vote for Kamala Harris, like a vote for Joe Biden, is to restore American imperial expansion. And a vote for Donald Trump is to rescind it. Donald Trump's not perfect on the issue. Dave Smith is. Dave Smith is the guy who, if he actually ran, does everything we'd hope for in terms of foreign policy. Donald Trump is the guy who gets us marginally better off than we were before. Abraham Accords, I thought were good. Dave disagrees, but I think they were good. He got other peace agreements. He tried to bring peace to the Korean Peninsula. He did a great job in these areas. And they said he was writing love letters to dictators. Yeah, it's called trying to get peace. trying to get peace. You say, I don't know or care about what North Korea is doing. We're backing off because we don't want to be at war with you anymore. We want war to stop, and we want economic relations to normalize. And North Korea says, okay, let's figure out what we have to do to make that happen. And they go, no, because the military-industrial complex wants conquests. And Trump didn't. Trump wanted to shore up America's defenses, get better trade agreements, help the working people in this country. And they come out and they say he only cared about himself. It's just laughably absurd, dude. Anyone with half a brain can realize that the only benefit Trump got from any of this was ego. And if you want to argue Trump's got an ego, I would agree with you. His name is on a bunch of buildings around the world, but he lost billions. If he really just wanted to make himself better off, he'd be swimming. He'd be on a yacht with his big old belly with a beer resting on top of it in the Mediterranean eating grapes. Instead, he's like, I'm going to go to war with the deep state because I like America. He likes the admiration he gets. That's obvious. He likes being a celebrity. That's obvious. But the idea that he doesn't actually care about what he's doing is stupid. And I also heard someone say, doing the right thing for the wrong reasons is wrong. And I'm just like, maybe, but you should still do it. You know, if there was a guy who's like, a burning building, I hear children screaming. If I save those kids, people are going to make me a hero.
I'm going to get on the nightly news.
I'm going to get on the news. Yeah. And then he rescues 2 children from a burning building. I'm going to be like, why did you do it, sir? And he goes, because I knew if I saved those kids, I'd be famous. I'd be like, yes, absolutely. Thank you for being motivated to risk your life for whatever that reason may be. We can disagree with your motivations, but you did save 2 kids. And that would actually be a really interesting story. So if Donald Trump really is in it for those reasons, but he's doing good, and he hopes that in 20 years everyone claps and builds golden statues of him, great, I'll take it.
I may be crazy, but I actually find him to be more altruistic than that. I don't think it's just I agree with you. He's got an ego. I think he enjoys attention and fame. I don't think that's why I think he really
Trump on big buildings everywhere.
I know, but I think that he could feed his ego and his need for fame in $1 million. He could do another reality show. He could, he doesn't need to do this.
You're right. And I will point out, Trump, look, I think you can go back to when Trump was a kid. He wasn't getting the attention he as a child, perhaps, maybe psychoanalyzing an 80-year-old man. I'm only 30. I have no idea, but I can tell you this. Trump loves it when people like him. That's a good thing. Trump lines up his employees and hands them $100 bills. And they're like, we love this guy. He gives us bonuses. And he's like, I'm glad you do. I want you to be happy and I want you to like me. What's wrong with that? Trump wants to be liked. He wants to feel like people know who he is. If he was a genocidal maniac who was like, I'm going to build a gigantic, 200-foot golden statue of myself and enslave people, I'd be like, that's a bad person. But if Trump is like, I know how to make everybody love me. I'm going to improve the economy, secure our borders, bring jobs back.
Evil
peace.
man.
Yep.
No, I think it's true. Trump likes to be like, I actually feel like for a lot of politicians, you have to want the spotlight. Like it would be very difficult to have this type of career if you weren't interested in that at all. And I think it's true. Like Trump was very generous with the staff. There are stories about him giving out money and stuff. But I think if you look at his relationship with his grandchildren, right? Like he actually has fostered very positive relationships from what I can see. I mean, his granddaughter spoke at the convention and seemed positive. She's super into golf. She just signed with the University of Miami, right? Like there are things about him that, are obvious that he wants to be like. On the other hand, I think he can authentically win people over, and I'm not sure that's true for everyone else who's in politics.
I don't know why people think it's a bad thing that you say Trump has an ego and that he wants people to like him. There are people that want to have this vision of him that he's just a noble soul and a saint. I'm like, there's nothing wrong with wanting to be liked. Donald Trump putting his name and brand everywhere and wanting recognition for his work is not bad or wrong in any way. And he's going about getting that attention by trying to help people. I don't think it's pure altruism where he's like, I will sacrifice everything for the fate of humanity. He's saying it feels good to be liked and recognized for doing good things. Like he's doing good things. And I think a part of his motivation is that he wants people to know he wants people to know who he is. I think that's totally, completely fine. It's a fine motivation to have. You want to be recognized for your hard work. So Trump is like, I know how to get recognition. I'll help as many people as I can. I'll sacrifice, work really, really hard, and then they'll recognize me. And I'm like, yes, they absolutely will.
But I think that if it's your ego and your need for attention, there comes a point where when they're trying to put you in prison for the rest of your life or shooting you in the head or whatever, that you might be like, you know what, I don't need attention this much or whatever. I mean, the fact that he continues to go forward despite all these things, I just have to believe that he...
Well, that's
wants to help people
I agree that he wants to help people, but I think a part of his motivation that is that he wants people to like
in the
him.
country.
I think he's like a lawful neutral, and that his alignment's been changing, and it could have gone evil, but it's been changing towards good the last 4 years or 5 years, and like he's becoming more altruistic. Like he's having a spiritual awakening. You can see it in his face and in his voice.
But
after the assassination attempt, like he's a different human being.
He said he did, and but to your point, I don't think it's when he nearly gets shot and killed. I wouldn't say it's his altruism that keeps him going. I would say it's his strength. Donald Trump is a man who appreciates being recognized for his hard work, for his capabilities. I think that's a strong piece of what motivates him. Like putting his name as his brand shows he wants people to know he's the one who's doing this. I think he wants to go about doing it by helping people. That's why even before he ran for president, he's famous for walking up to his employees and handing out $100 bills to them. He's like, I want you to know and respect the work that I do, the hard work that I do, and I want you to be better off for it. Here's $100. It is a component of it. And when they nearly kill him and they attack him, it's the strength that got him to that point that makes him stand up and say, now I'm doubling down. So I don't have this view in my mind of Donald Trump as being like, I will sacrifice all that I have for the betterment of mankind. No, he's like, I know what I'm doing. I know what's going to work. I know it can help people. I know how to run companies. People need to recognize this for more than just ego. It's also about knowing when a leader is good and recognizing that person should be in charge. Yep. And then when they come after him, now it's, you want to screw with me? You better not miss.
Something I've noticed about ego is like, sometimes it's the most egotistical thing you can do is to not use your body for its greatest purpose, is to hide and let yourself just be safely unknown. That's ego. That's ego taking over and keeping your body safe. And I
agree.
To make yourself famous is a big sacrifice. To be known by so many people because you're going to be hated by a lot of them. That's a huge sacrifice.
I was having a conversation earlier with Richie about this skateboarder and the varying degrees of fame that exist. There's global notoriety, like Donald Trump. The man cannot go out for breakfast without a security detail and someone watching the chef. And that's torturous. People need to understand, like, there's a lot of people who seem to think like, oh, it must be so great to live this way. There's a reason why Donald Trump eats McDonald's. Do you guys know what it is?
Yeah. Does he still?
Yes.
I hope he cut it out of his
You know
diet.
why? No. You know why?
Because it's prepackaged.
Exactly. Because they can walk into a fast food restaurant and there's a burger sitting that was made before and he goes, that one. Because if he goes in and he says, I want a Big Mac, someone's going to spit in it. Someone's going to screw with him just to be the one who got Trump, whether they like him or don't like him, because people are nuts. So people make fun of him and say, he's eating McDonald's again. Yeah, because if he tells someone to go pick up McDonald's, nobody screws with it. They have standards and regulations, and he sends a guy in says, I need 5 Big Mac meals. Then he walks in, boom, fast food. Trump goes to a restaurant, and he does, but he's got to have security with him. That is I don't think people truly understand. I was at VidCon, and I saw this YouTuber guy, and he had a bodyguard holding him the whole time, everywhere he went, a guy who was like 6'5", and I was like, why would you want to live that way? Just for being a YouTuber, right? I couldn't imagine what Donald Trump goes through. They nearly killed the guy.
Because the good you can do when you're famous sometimes outweighs the sacrifice you have to make.
We got to at least get this one story in before we go to Super Chats. From the Post Millennial. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear wishes rape upon J.D. Vance's family. It's not an exaggeration. And apparently when he was asked to clarify, he doubled down. Quote, after speaking on the DNC main stage last night, Harris campaign surrogate Governor Andy Beshear went on national television this morning and explicitly called for a member of Senator Vance's family to be raped, the Trump-Vance campaign said. We'll play it. The quote is, make him go through this. That's what Beshear said.
About what some people have had to go through because of these laws. J.D. Vance calls pregnancy resulting from rape inconvenient. Like, inconvenience is traffic. Make him go through this. Think about.
When asked about it again, he apparently said something to the effect of, oh, it's a deflection or whatever. J.D. Vance responds, what the hell is this? Why is Andy Beshear wishing that a member of my family would get raped? Yeah. That's kind of wild. Make his family go through a rape pregnancy. Dude.
You know, it's something I don't do is wish that people have to suffer trauma to realize what's really valuable in life. Like, don't the horror of war so you can realize how important and how great it is to have quiet and peace and health. I just won't let myself go to that point where I actually wish them to have to feel the suffering.
You know, I can assure you this. If a member of J.D. Vance's family was raped, they would not abort the kid. We have had very many pro-life people through these doors and sitting in these chairs who would outright say, absolutely not, no abortion, no exceptions. The idea that Andy Bashir thinks that J.D. Vance's family member getting raped and would result in them considering aborting their child means he fundamentally does not understand. So it's just shocking that he would say something like this.
I mean, it's that expression, I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy, right? This apparently does not apply here. And I think that almost talks, I mentioned this the other day, but I think in some ways the abortion issue is a larger-than-life caricature issue for Democrats right now. The fact that you could say, like, we'll make him go through this and not realize the consequences of what you're saying, as if implying, like, this is just a trial someone should go through, is very strange. And you know, Andy Bashir was on the shortlist for a potential VP candidate for Harris, and I find it fascinating that he is this Democratic governor from what is effectively a red state, Kentucky, and he is so flippant about this issue. It's just something that I feel like he is putting his own career on the line, and I assume he thinks it's worth it, that the Walsh-Harris campaign will provide him a future, so he should just say whatever he can, or else he didn't think it through, which is pretty thoughtless.
I think he thought it through. I think what he said actually sounds fairly common in Democrat circles. When he was like, make him go through this, it sounds very typical of how Democrats perceive these issues. They genuinely think that if someone raped a member of Vance's family, they'd immediately go, well, I guess it's abortion. They say these things. They say the left believes that these pro-life individuals, first of all, they run the lie where they show up to these pro-life events and they go, how many kids have you adopted? And there's a bunch of people being like, none. And they're like, aha, that proves it. And then they ignore, like, I don't know, Amy Coney Barrett's family. And I think she's adopted like 2. Mm-hmm. And many pro-lifers are substantially more likely to adopt. It's much more common. They act like they're the ones adopting. They live in this world where they genuinely believe everyone thinks exactly like they do. And the only reason they're pro-life is because they're lying. That's it. They're lying and they hate women. But if they ever had a situation, then they would not be pro-life anymore. Wrong. Absolutely not. I guarantee you, J.D. Vance's family would be like, well, we'll care for the child.
What do you think? What do you think Andy Bashir was thinking?
I think that they have to bring everything back to abortion. I think because they have no actual policies to run on, as we pointed out before. This abortion, J6, that's it. I mean,
and that's the policy.
No, seriously though, I think that they know that if to win this election, they're going to have to inflame the sensibilities of a lot of women and convince a lot of women that their rights are going to be in danger if they would consider voting for Donald Trump or J.D. Vance. And I think any opportunity to remind women what's at stake and to make it seem, by the way, as if it's like a common occurrence, these rape pregnancies, which are extraordinarily rare. I think that's why he did it.
Yeah, I think it is interesting that this is the issue Harris in particular thinks she's going to win on. I mean, she was touring the country on her, pro-abortion tour beforehand. The first time she met Walsh was at a Planned Parenthood, which she toured as, it was unprecedented having a vice president tour an abortion clinic. But I have to wonder if the issue is, I saw some poll that said, it's not considered a major issue by most Americans. So they can bring up abortion constantly, right? They can do it in these kind of graphic ways, and they can have their, abortion and vasectomy bus outside the DNC. But at the end of the day, even women who think it is a major issue for them are still impacted by the economy. They're still impacted by crime. I don't know that you can use abortion enough to distract from the realities that you have a weak campaign on those issues.
How many abortions are they getting? Like it's kind of crazy. I'm like, is it really that common? I mean that seriously. Yeah. Do they have abortions that often?
That this could be, to your point, the most important thing in your life when you can't afford gas and groceries and whatever. But you're like, yeah, but I need to be able to abort whenever I want to.
I listened to this interview a couple months ago with women who were, they were in Texas and they had various, Texas has a restriction on abortion. And they were saying, and I had to undergo this or I wanted to leave state. And there's one woman who was like, and I couldn't afford to leave the state to undergo an abortion. And I like wanted to pull my hair out. It's like, first off, the fact that like your only default option is abortion is sad. But on top of that, like you're listing an economic complaint here that you don't have the money to travel. Why don't you have any money? Because of the Biden economy.
Right.
Not that I want you to go out of state to get an abortion. That's almost separate to me. But, even these women who are presenting these arguments as to why these are bad issues touch on the economy as well, it's too expensive to have a kid right now. Oh, so you wouldn't abort your kid if it was more affordable. You could have children. The economy wasn't so bad. Like they all they all have to pass by this issue to make any sort of complaint. And I find that to be amazing that the DNC would prioritize this issue over everything else. It's just illogical.
But it's also kind of a hoax at the end of the day, because number one, that's not what the Supreme Court decision on Roe even meant. Mm-hmm. You can still get an abortion. That's not a thing. And number two, the majority of Republicans, I think, support exceptions. There's not really that many Republicans who want an outright ban for abortion in this country. I don't know. Maybe you guys disagree.
There are a lot.
I think it's a hoax. I think it's a hoax issue.
There are a lot. I don't know.
You think it's the majority?
I don't know. I think it's like
7%, but
no, it's way more than 7.
But they're the loud. You get some loud people that are like, no, it should be completely banned, and then 28,000 people like the clip, and then it's like, that's going to make a lot of waves.
I'm pretty sure if you asked most pro-lifers, I'm pretty sure 100% of pro-lifers would say in an ideal society there's no abortion at all. Now, as to whether politically they want to ban it, many would be like, well, we'll leave it up to the states. And so that's probably the distinction. There won't be a federal abortion ban. Seamus Coughlin, for instance, and who runs, is it Live Action?
Live Action?
Live Action?
Yeah, the pro-life organization.
I don't know who runs it.
Check it out.
But I think their stance is pretty much like no abortions, period.
Seamus is hardcore.
Well,
he's like one of the only people I know that talks like that.
Well, and the thing is, like, you're asking, do the majority of Republicans support? I think I would say the majority of Republicans probably support some sort of restriction. I don't think they all support a 6-week ban, which tends to be the earliest, the heartbeat bans or stuff like that. But even in states where there are really intense restrictions, 6 week or whatever else, they still have exceptions for typically rape, incest, and life of the mother.
Yeah.
And so there is a level of flexibility that there's being presented even in these like more intensive restrictive states. And so I think that just tells you that this is not an issue that Republicans are totally 100% dead step, agreed upon. And probably that's good, right? This is a complex issue that there should be a lot of nuance and debate too, unlike the Democratic Party, which is like fear-mongering. I mean, Kamala always refers to any ban that's gotten passed as a Trump abortion ban, even though Roe v. Wade was overturned under Biden and Trump has said he wants it to be governed by the state, and also he's not campaigning. Like, he is not an elected official from a lot of these states that have these bans that she's so critical of.
And he said he doesn't support a national ban.
No, he says it.
And he supports exceptions.
It's Lila Rose is Live Action. You mentioned earlier, and she I know she's full on like no abortions ever anywhere. Sorry, interject that.
And I mean, even people commenting right now saying there should never be an exception for rape is no excuse for aborting a baby.
Mm-hmm.
I find it so authoritarian, and not that all authoritarianism is bad, but like commanding what other people can and can't do with their bodies. And of course, it's the body of the child. And you want to protect the life of the innocent. I get it, but it's also the woman's body. She's over there. She's not you. Like, focus on your own life.
I'd probably categorize myself more as post-liberal these days, especially listening to the likes of Carl Benjamin and such, and the Lotus Eaters are very smart. And I think I've come to realize over the past several years, post-liberalism is not conservatism. Conservatism has traditional values associated with it. Post-liberalism is more so, at least the things I think are interesting, is recognizing that what you just said, Ian, is just the destruction. It's capitulation, giving up and letting evil succeed. Well, a moral functioning society has to have boundaries by which people agree to operate within. And so telling someone that we're not going to let you cut your hands off, there's a reason for that. It's bad for you and you're wrong. Extends to a bunch of other areas as well. However, the reality is it's all about moral worldview. And there are people, I think, when I was a lot younger, I genuinely believed principles dictated things. And so long as we understood the logic behind it, we'd accept it. But then you understand that it's actually morals, which are structured in what you think will lead to the correct outcome and what will make lives better. And that's different for a lot of people. But if there's a collective group of people that are willing to adhere to a certain set of standards to avoid a certain detriment, then it has to be enforced. That is, if people all today decided, I want to cut my hand off because I have body dysmorphia, we say no. We are going to do what we can to prevent you from doing that. That's bad for you. And then there are libertarians saying, if somebody wants to do it, why not?
I think because more people doesn't equal better. You want more quality people. If you get more psychopaths, it's actually worse. So, but also I'm riding off the coattails of 30 years of thinking abortion was fine. Like not fine. I hate it, but it's accepted in my circle.
Everything is a slippery slope always. So when you move in any direction, culturally and politically, you open the door to, you push the boundaries of what would be considered extreme. So there was a period in this country where gay marriage was considered extreme. You go back 50 years or whatever, it was unheard of. Then it got to the point in this country where it became more socially acceptable for a variety of reasons. Proximity, people knew people who were LGBT or whatever and said, they're fine, whatever, they don't cause me any problems. And then it came to gay marriage. The argument from conservatives in 2008 with was it Prop 8 or whatever in California on gay marriage was they're going to start teaching kids this stuff in school. And the Democrats said that's absurd, that'll never happen. But it's logically consistent. The argument then became after 2014 was Obergefell?
15.
15? Now, the argument from Democrats was, well, if there's a gay teacher with a picture of his husband on his desk, you have to explain to the kid what that is, right? So now it has to be included in curriculum. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that when the conservatives were like, if you allow gay marriage normalized in society, they will teach this in schools. And the Democrats said, oh, you're crazy. We're just saying let people live their lives. But the logic was there. Everything pushes the boundaries. And so now we're at the point where we had a video yesterday where a guy who's HIV positive said he shouldn't have to tell anybody that he had HIV, and that when he got hooked up with a guy and then told him after, the guy looked at him like he had been murdered. But Democrats actually are pushing laws that decriminalize knowingly engaging in behaviors which could spread HIV without informing the other person.
I think that's bioterrorism, personally.
Well, this is where we're getting, and the argument is you're oppressing people. Whenever you allow something, what becomes extreme moves further and further away. This is not a statement of what is right or wrong. It's a statement of fact. That if you say no rock music, not allowed, we will not have any rock music anywhere in America. And then someone says, what about guitars? Guitars can be used for other kinds of music. Then you say, okay, fine, I guess guitars are fine. Now someone's playing guitar and they start playing something that's kind of like rock and people start coming to like it. And then someone says, can we have drums too? And they're like, well, we already have the guitars. Then you explain to people, start teaching about rock music and what guitars are used for. Then it becomes common. Then someone says, I want to play the drums. It's not that it's right or wrong to play drums. I'm using it as an example of if you open the door to one thing, what becomes more acceptable expands and moves around it.
Yeah, but okay, so in an example where somebody intentionally gives someone HIV, something that they didn't want, something that permanently changes their life.
Without their consent.
Without their consent, it's a terrible thing. Like, we acknowledge that's a terrible thing, right? But what about giving someone a baby that they didn't want? What about raping someone, impregnating them, and giving them something that they did not want?
And this is the moral challenge. I fall into the more libertarian pro-choice-ish camp on this one, in that you can't violate one person's consent because of another person's requirements.
Yeah.
But there's no moral answer. There's none.
Yeah.
The idea that one life has to be sacrificed to the actions of another, and I recognize that conservative argument, and it's true. But there's no middle ground here. It's a razor thin one side or the other. End of story. A guy rapes a woman. There is now 3 individuals involved: the woman, the baby, and the guy. Neither the woman or the baby asked for the circumstance, and both are victims in the circumstance. I think the challenge, however, is forcing a woman who did not consent to provide her body to another person. I don't see how you reconcile that. I don't.
Right.
I don't. I would prefer there not to be an abortion.
Yeah.
I think that's wrong. But this is the difference I think I have morally with many conservatives on the pro-life issue. However, we all agree that modern pro-choice Democrats are insane.
Yes.
So it's,
Yeah. And I personally have friends who are the product of rape. People who I love, who I can't imagine not being in my life.
I would assume they've grown quite fond of living.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, absolutely. And that's a super compelling argument for, why we shouldn't just assume that because somebody's raped, they should terminate. I just can't wrap my head around forcing someone to carry a pregnancy from somebody that they never wanted on their, I just can't.
I have this view that a lot of people disagree with, the pro-life conservatives, that if there were two guys walking down the street and a mad scientist kidnapped one of them, or let's not do the mad scientist, right? Let's say you wake up in a hospital bed with tubes connecting your blood to another guy's blood, and they're like, you never consented to this, but if you disconnect the blood now, that man dies, so you're not allowed to disconnect it. I'd be like, nice try, buddy. Like, these tubes are coming out. You can't force me to give my blood to somebody else. You can't force to give my body to somebody else. It's my life. I make those decisions.
I don't know if we have something planned, but we should do a culture war abortion debate.
I'm pretty sure we did.
We should do another one with like hardcore pro-life, hardcore pro-choice, if we can find people like that. And then just sit in the middle and be like,
I agree. We should. We will. And I know how it'll play out. The conservative side will offer up concessions to reduce abortion, and the pro-choice liberal side will say, never, no way, never going to happen. Because that happened when we had Matt Binder on with Seamus, and Matt Binder called me pro-life. And Seamus is like, no, Tim is not pro-life. But Matt, a progressive, is like, a woman should be able to get an abortion at any point for any reason. No one can tell her otherwise. And I'm like, even if the baby's going to survive, like it's a 9-month baby, like it's ready to be born, why kill it? So it doesn't matter. It's women's choice. And I'm like, that's not pro-choice. That's pro-death. Like,
yeah.
Well, we're going to go to Super Chats. So smash the like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show if you do like it. Head over to timcast.com, click join us, become a member to support the show. That members-only show will be coming up at 10 p.m. You don't want to miss it. We will take questions from you, the audience, and carry on these conversations. Token Black Guy with the first Super Chat saying, howdy, people. Tim, I think it would be pretty cool if one Friday out of the month you offered an elite member the opportunity to come on IRL. Thoughts? We have considered it. We won't because we don't allow people to buy their way onto the show. And it is different. You're an elite member, and I think it's really cool that Raymond has joined Raymond G. Stanley Jr. has joined the roster.
Speaking of, people are requesting that Raymond and I make an appearance together on IRL. So next time he's hosting, I'm coming in 5th chair. It's going to be hot.
We can just have him come tomorrow when you're here.
Let's do it.
All right.
I'll sit 5 tomorrow.
And I'm like, it's really cool, because Raymond super chats so often. He's very involved in the Discord and the community, but he works here, and he's a smart guy, and he's good at what he does. And I thought he'd be great 3rd chair, and he did a great job. And we're like, Raymond, you're a smart guy. And we've got a lot of members who call in, who host before and after show. The challenge is the very thin line of, we have people email us being like, hey, we'd like to sponsor the show for $30,000. And we're like, great, what are you thinking? We come on, we do thank you and have a nice day. We don't do that. And so there is a way I think we bring Discord members onto the show, but I don't think we make it elite members. It has to just be a general member. It can't be tied to the amount of money you pay or that you're in the elite membership or something like that. I think it might just be, if you're a frequent caller that does a really good job and everyone in the community votes for it, we might do more of like a vote, and we can invite the person out to be 3rd chair. That probably makes more sense.
Yeah, there's really interesting people that call in. That'd be really cool.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We have frequent callers who are very smart, and people who host the before and the pre-shows and the after shows, and they're starting their own podcast too. So that's definitely a possibility. The only thing I'm saying is it can't be tied to the elite members club. It has to just be like, if you're a member, it's totally fine. If people if we do like a voting system or something, that would be actually super easy.
You're actually an elite human being, then the spotlight's for you.
Yeah, I wouldn't want it to be like, upgrade your membership, pay more, and maybe you can be on the show. No, it can't be like that.
I just want to give a special howdy to you, Token Black Guy. Thanks for that super chat.
Sam Uri says, howdy people, I'm here watching failed musician Phil Labonte and his band, All That Remains / Megadeth concert. I'll catch tonight's stream later. I really hope to see Dave Mustaine on Timcast one day.
Oh, that's so hot. Have you been in touch with Phil? Have you guys talked to him since he's been on tour? Anybody?
I have a little bit.
I have not even talked to him yet. How's the tour going? I mean, it looks epic.
It looked great.
They're crushing on the bus. Did his bus get broken down, or they just got a really nice bus so that it doesn't break down? He said it's the biggest point of vulnerability on any rock tour is the bus.
Yeah.
So they've got a really nice bus.
I was thinking of maybe checking out the September 7th show.
Yeah, let's hit it.
It's in Raleigh.
Cool. North Carolina?
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, I think like 6 hours or something.
Yeah, it's not bad. I want to go to the one in Richmond because that's only like 2.5 hours.
Richmond? When's that?
Virginia. It's late September.
Yeah, but is it on a weekend?
I'll look. Hold on.
If it's on a weekend, let's go. That'll be great.
Well, let's do an episode from backstage or from the bus. from the tour bus.
Oh man, if we could, I don't know.
Yeah, we can.
I mean, they're gonna be live on stage while we're like doing a show on I don't know.
See.
Phil's probably going like, Ian, stop. Ian,
Yeah, Phil, we're coming for you.
We're all on stage with Phil. He told me that we could all go on stage the whole time.
sure.
Yeah, and he wants you to sing. He doesn't want me to sing. He's so jealous. No, I'm just kidding.
You have the dates?
Let me see. I don't see it right now. Oh no. Okay, so Richmond, Virginia is Sunday, September 15th. So I don't know.
Oh, really?
If it's a morning show, but
No, that's fine.
it could be cool.
Yeah,
It's
only
a
a couple
shorter
hours.
drive. Yeah.
Ooh.
At Phil, see you in.
Yeah, maybe we coming out. John says, fun fact, Tim, did you know that if you ask ChatGPT about the Trump assassination attempt, it will lie to you and tell you that it never happened? The more you know. Yeah, I think we were messing around with this and posting screenshots and stuff, that it was like, no such thing occurred. And then I was like, you're wrong. And it goes, I'm sorry about that. You're correct. It did happen. And I'm like, that's weird, dude. Meta AI, I think, was doing that too.
Have you noticed people accidentally calling it the Trump assassination? And it's like the mimetic magic of like manifesting an actual assassination. Like you've got to always call it an attempt, a failed attempt at assassination. Don't fall privy to the laziness of calling it an assassination.
All right. Paul Gray says, Brandon, day one fan, your new video gave me chills. It summed up the insanity of the last 6 years. It should be in textbooks in 2020 and 2040. We are getting hit with buckshot of world-changing events weekly. It's easy to lose track. Keep up the amazing work. I got to tell you, man, I think it is absolutely funny when, what is it, like 2 weeks before someone shot Trump in the head, in the ear, but, you know, that's part of his head. And I was having a debate with someone who was arguing that no such civil war was possible. It's not going to happen. Nothing will happen. And then like a week and a half later, someone tried to murder Donald Trump. And the media said, corporate press said, we were a millimeter away from a civil war. And I'm just like, dude, go back to 2018 and everyone says, Tim, you're crazy for talking about this. And my response is and always will be the same. All I did was read The Atlantic. All I did was read The Hill. A Princeton professor said it. The Atlantic said it. My opinion is not something that I fabricated out of thin air saying the end is nigh. I was going, wow, look at what these national security advisors and corporate outlets are saying about the conflict in the United States. They may be right. And then I bring on a journalist and talk about it, and everyone's like, Tim's crazy for thinking that's going to happen. And I'm like, I'm just repeating the corporate press. It's not even a unique opinion to me.
Last night I was opening a box as a bit of a metaphor, and I full force ripped the box open, but I was too close to the wall, and I slammed my elbow into the wall, and it ripped open the skin, and I was bleeding. And I was like, how quickly life can change. And I just went, everything was about healing my elbow. Everything became how fast the entire system can alter and your priorities can shift.
Well, here's most people who suffer any kind of accident. You're driving in a car, you're going to get pizza. It's a boring Saturday, early evening with your friends, and you're like, well, go pick up some pizzas and then, go back and watch the fight or whatever. And then you get T-boned. You wake up 3 months later and you can't move your legs. And you're just like, what happened? That split second, that moment, and your life did a 180.
So
my life became all about trying to charge an electric car.
Yeah.
For 24 hours.
That must have been like hell on earth.
And it was the same one Elad got. What is it called?
Polestar. Right?
Polestar 2.
And there's no charging stations? There's one every what?
Oh, there's
150
lots.
miles?
Just none of them work.
This is
Wait,
like
they're
a
all
weird
out of
scam
service.
running out of rental car agencies in New York.
How long does it take to charge that thing?
Well, there's slow stations, fast stations, and super fast stations. So I went to all of them, and one of them I think was the super fast station. I got about 60% charge in about 45 minutes.
Whoa, that's terrible.
Yeah, that was fast. That was like the super fast.
I picked up Cybertruck today.
Yeah, dude.
Drove one Tesla with all of us in the car. At 75%, we arrived. It was 90 miles. And we were at 45%. Then got the truck, grabbed some Chipotle, drove back. The Tesla upon return was at 13%. So it carried 4 people on the way there, and it carried 1 person on the way back. And so that's 180 miles before it went from 75 to 13. They say the range is 300 or so, but it's certainly not.
Just so everyone understands, I had to rent this car. There was no choice. I don't want people to think I lost my mind.
Elad said the same thing.
Yeah, literally the only car that they had. It was a
Elad
nightmare.
said he waited around for a different car to come in, and after a while had to be like, okay, I need to get on the road. I guess I'll take the EV.
What rental agency was it?
Hertz.
That's what Elad said, wasn't it?
And these are both in New York, which I think is funny.
Yes.
I'm being serious. There's some sort of conspiracy afoot.
Yeah.
2 minor questions. One, can you charge one Tesla with another Tesla? you
So
run a court?
Cybertruck can charge cars.
Oh, that's hardcore.
I'll stress again. You can charge your other Teslas off of Cybertruck.
So
it's
badass.
crazy. And apparently, Cybertruck has a 40 amp outlet in the back. This is nuts. I didn't. It's got 2 power outlets and a 40 amp, meaning you can power your fifth wheel, you can power your RV, and it can power your home. I think they said for like 3 days.
Can you store a second battery in the Cybertruck so you can swap it out?
That I don't know.
That'd be cool.
But it's kind of funny because like, people, obviously I'm not going to use Cybertruck to haul a fifth wheel trailer across the country. And so when people are like, why would you buy a truck? Why would you get a Cybertruck? And I'm like, because sometimes we go to Home Depot, like people have pickup trucks. I don't know. Like, is every pickup truck hauling heavy machinery across the country? No, we get a pickup truck because sometimes I got to go to an air conditioner. We go to Best Buy and get an air conditioner, and Cybertruck is just another truck, I guess.
Bulletproof. That's pretty cool.
Honestly, that's the only reason.
It's so cool. But the windows are not. There's a version of Cybertruck I heard that the windows don't roll down because they're bulletproof, but most of those aren't.
They're super strong windows. The side paneling, unlike most cars, are not bulletproof. People think they're because of movies, and they're not. Cybertruck is.
Oh, sorry.
I am not going to shoot Cybertruck.
You're not going to?
That's not going to
You
happen.
call it Cybertruck? You've named it?
It's called Cybertruck. I don't know.
I didn't call it the Cybertruck. You just called it Cybertruck. You're not going to shoot it?
No.
Maybe one day?
Never going to happen.
All right. Super chat.
Let's grab some more. ZK Mud says, Brandon, I just submitted my video for the 10K challenge. Be on the lookout for art and demoralization, my walk away story. 10K would be a lifesaver in this Kamala economy. Kamala economy, there you go.
Kamala economy. That's
How are you judging the contest?
So we actually have a group of judges that are going to be watching every single video. I'll be one of them, along with various people on my team. And between now and I think around October 15th, we're going to choose the top 10. When we get to the top 10, first of all, I want to say too, the first 50 people who enter the contest automatically get $100. So you get $100 literally just for being one of the first 50 people to enter. But we'll narrow it down to the top 10, and then between the 15th and somewhere around November 1st, we're going to narrow it down to the top 3. Third place gets $500. Second place gets $1,000. First place gets $10,000. And people can enter by going to walkawaychallenge.com.
What's the parameter for the competition?
So there's a lot, and they need to read all the rules before they submit. So go to walkawaychallenge.com, read all the rules. But basically, just you have to tell a truthful and heartfelt walkaway story. It doesn't matter to us. You can do. I recommend like 5 minutes. If you go too long, it's But I recommend submitting like a 5-minute video. You have to enter. You have to submit it to our Facebook group, our app Walkaway Social, and on X. And you have to use the hashtag Walkaway and the hashtag Walkaway Challenge when you post, and fill out your submission form.
Are you taking into account like the quality of the actual video content? Like if they have a swirling camera kind of on a track and stuff like that with super 8K?
Yeah, you're asking all the right questions. So we're awarding like some bonus points for creativity. But the main thing is that we don't want anyone to feel like they don't have a chance. The most important criteria is that your story be true and that you speak from the heart. But if somebody does, some amazing creative production, obviously we're going to, give some credit for that. And we'll give a few points as well for engagement. If people are posting on TikTok and Truth Social, and, if they're spreading their own video, we give bonuses for that as well. But the first 50 people get $100, so go to walkawaychallenge.com.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, Eagle Union 1776 says, Moonlord. Well, greetings, Moonlord, and why doesn't that also known as Surprise Me at All?
Interesting.
What does that mean?
They call me Moonlord partially because I'm cosmic. They used to call my dad Cosmo when he worked at the fire department, I guess because he was out there. And I wonder if when I'm controlling the weather, I'm actually sending energy through the moon, refracting it back onto Earth.
You're not, but let's read the next one. Chris says, I work in the hydrogen industry. Steam methane reforming is our go-to globally, but all Biden policies incentivize electrolysis, a terribly inefficient method.
Steam methane reforming. Let's
Uh-oh, he's got a new one.
All right.
That's
We're going to
why
have to make Ian's steam methane
Sounds
dream.
delicious.
Sounds like a latte.
It does.
I think a lot of
Don't
Biden's
consume
environmental policy is sort of in name only. It's to be like, I am the most green president of all time. I also feel like Kamala has sort of dropped this. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe she's about to bring it back. But he kind of pushed that he was going to be this environmental champion. And I just don't hear her talking about it. Although she doesn't talk about that much, to be fair.
She's been talking about clean energy a lot when she's been dancing around policies.
She's been throwing out some buzzwords,
No tax on tip and clean energy.
Dalamar says, about the unrealized gains, there goes the startup culture and stock IPOs where the founders keep control. These morons keep screaming net worth and they don't understand stock price X number shares owned. Yep. It's an impossibility. Elon Musk owns a bunch of shares in Tesla. He can't sell. Oh, no, Bezos is a better example. Bezos owns tons of Amazon. It's most of his net worth. He legally can't sell shares. He's bound by the corporate articles because if he were to dump shares, it would destroy the company. So he's restricted on when he gets to sell based on the performance of the company. Same thing with Elon. If they came to him and said, you own $100 billion in shares, you owe us, and they went up $1 billion, you owe us $250 million. He's going to go, okay, well, where do I get that? I'm like, you figure it out. Sell stock. And he goes, I legally can't sell the stock because of the articles of incorporation restricting me from when I can and cannot sell. And then they go, then we're going to seize the stock. Okay, then Amazon disappears. Every shareholder panics, sells everything they can, and gets out of the company because it's going under. The idea is stupid and makes no sense. Let's grab some more super chats. Jeff Dapkin says, Grandpa built a house north of San Diego, 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath for $75K in 1975. We sold it after his passing for $1.025 million last year.
Wow, where was that? Oh,
San Diego. My step-grandmother could never afford this kind of tax. Yeah.
California is where I've heard a lot of those stories. Like people whose grandparents bought it for $6,000. It sells for $2 million.
Here's an idea for the movie Up. You know what's funny? So have you guys seen Up?
No.
You've never seen
I know of it. It's a cartoon where the guy attaches balloons to his house.
Animation. Yeah. So it's him and this, young girl. They grow up together. They get married. They always want to travel. They never do. She ends up dying. He's a widower and he lives in this house. And developers come and say, we want to buy the land. He goes, I'm not selling it. And then over time, developments build up all around his house and it becomes a big city. And then he has this little rinky-dink property that he won't sell. And the developers are like, we want this property so we can finish developing. And so something happens and then they accuse him of being like infirm and they want to take his house from him. It would have been much simpler than that. They should have had a tax assessor show up and say, Mr. Whatever your name is, this property is worth $50 million. You've been offered over and over again $50 million. You won't accept it. You owe us $500,000 per month, or you owe us, I don't know, like $500,000 for the year on property taxes. And he goes, I can't afford that. And they go, then we suggest you sell. And then he puts the balloons and flies away in the house, which gave him the land anyway, by the way. When he put the balloons in the house and flew away, they got the land they wanted. You know what I mean?
But I think part of it was the house itself, right? Like there's the whole montage where they're like moving in and fixing it up and whatever else. Like he doesn't want them to destroy this house that reminds him of his late wife.
And he could have said, I'll tell you what, you can have the land, but relocate the house to another field, wooded, like a open field area. They would have been like, done. How much do you want? We'll give you $1 million and relocate the house for you. He would be like, fine. Instead, he put a bunch
thinking creatively. That is so true.
He put a bunch of balloons in his house, flew away, and the developers went, problem solved. We didn't even have to pay for demo.
The land pay for the balloons at least?
No, he did it all himself.
They demoed my grandma's house like that. They wanted her land because they're building the natatorium and expanding the city hall. And she wouldn't sell. She's like, over my dead body. When I'm dead, you can have it. She probably just should have sold it because when she died, they took it cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Let's grab some more. We got Vito says, Ian, you say you would be alienating people if you said you were voting Trump. Shouldn't you, with the platform you have, be a leader to shouldn't you have to be a leader to show even a guy like you sees voting Trump as the clear way forward that it will help more?
I think that the clear way forward is fixing the economy. I don't really care who the president is. I just want...
You think Kamala is going to fix the economy?
I don't think any of these presidents can do it. They need people like us that can do it. They need the private sector to really come together and organize. That's really where I'm focused, is creating art and building technology. So I don't want to get too embroiled in the politics because it can get pretty divisive.
You think Kamala will not make the economy worse?
Man, it's like, what do we do? If she takes an eye at what we're doing and she's like, oh, I like that, let's install that, then maybe
she's talking about a tax system that makes literally no sense and will just rip the economy to shreds.
I mean, I'm not a big fan of that girl. I don't think she has any command experience. I'm not going to vote for her.
In 2019, Donald Trump, I'm not going to blame Trump or Biden for COVID. COVID happened, and you can argue Fauci, you can argue whatever you want. I'm going to say moot point. Biden had Trump had the beginning, Biden had the end. Let's just say fine on that regard. We're several years after COVID, the economy is still trash. And they're going, but the metrics prove otherwise. Yeah, go ask a father how he's affording groceries for his kids and he's going to complain. Tell me why everyone feels that way. Your stats mean nothing. I care about the sentiment of the people.
Yep.
Before COVID, the best numbers of our lives. Unemployment was low. Youth unemployment was low. Minority unemployment was low. Salaries were up. Wages were up. Inflation was down. That's all I look at. So that means the evidence suggests a Trump presidency would improve the economy. And we know for a fact that the Harris administration has done nothing in the past 3 years, the economy has only gotten worse.
It's 35.17 trillion in debt. That's insurmountable.
true.
I mean, unless it's not insurmountable, but we just need to reconfigure the way we're using fuel.
So, I mean, it's a simple equation. Kamala is leading the government right now, and the economy is bad. Before COVID, the economy was working really well under Trump. Therefore, the simple choice would just be Trump is better for the economy. We hope.
I also think I'm in it. Like, I'm not looking at it from a distance anymore, like a kid watching TV and being like, I want that guy to do it. I actually know Don Trump Jr. I know Laura Trump. I know Kimberly Guilfoyle, Don's wife. I know them. And I feel like I could really help them as people. If Kamala contacted me and is like, please be our director of energy, I would help her. I will do whatever it takes to help this country.
All right. We got the text vet says it was reported the abortion bus has done something like 30 unalivings already. There are videos people are posting where people are going into and coming out of that abortion bus. So
that's so creepy to me. It's when you have a chemically induced abortion, it's not like popping an ibuprofen, right? Like, there are serious consequences, there are side effects, and this is just being treated like it's, stepping into the bus to get your temporary tattoo at the DNC carnival. It's so creepy.
You said vasectomy bus too?
I think it's all in one.
A lot of people are pointing out Trump was on Theo Von.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I look forward to seeing it. I want to get Pete Buttigieg.
He'd be great.
Yeah, I watched him. I think he might actually do it. I saw him on Fox and Friends, and I don't think they did a particularly good job at talking to Pete Buttigieg. I think it was too adversarial. They were talking past each other, and Pete Buttigieg made a lot of points that clearly, So one of the points made was crime went up under Trump. Buttigieg goes, I don't think your viewers know that crime was up under Trump. And the response from Fox was like deflection or whatever. And I'm just like, my response is, yeah, of course, absolutely. Pete, that's a really great point. And during this time period, when we were all sitting here talking about the news and going through these podcasts, complaining about this, as you mentioned, the crime went up. We were wondering why it was Democrats kept saying defund the police. Yeah. And why Kamala Harris was offering a bail fund on her Twitter account to people who had just rioted and the worst riots. So yes, while Trump was president, crime went up, and we begged Trump, like, you must have wanted Pete to invoke the Insurrection Act, send in the National Guard, because that's his federal authority. I don't know what else you expect him to do as the president to deal with governor's issues. But yes, I completely agree. When the crime went up, Trump should have invoked the Insurrection Act, sent in the National Guard, and shut down those leftist riots.
Yep.
That's not the response Fox gives him, though. So I welcome Pete Buttigieg to come on and say that to me, because I'll have that conversation with him and say, you are correct. And if he wants to talk about inflation went up under Trump and jobs were lost, I'm like, you're talking about COVID? Because we can argue about Biden and Trump under COVID and who did and what didn't. I think it's a moot point. Anyway, we're going to the members only show. So smash the like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, head over to timcast.com, click join us, become a member. And we're going to have that members only show coming up for you now. I'll try and talk a little slower. Become a member, but for $10, you can help us fight fake news and help the show stay afloat and do all that good stuff. You can follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. You can follow at Timcast IRL on Instagram. Brandon, do you want to shout anything out?
Go to walkwaychallenge.com. We're running the Walkway $10,000 testimonial video challenge. You can enter for your chance to win $10,000 for telling your walkway story. And the first 50 people to enter will be automatically win $100. Just go to walkwaychallenge.com. Get in the contest. Share your walkway story.
At Ian Crossland is where you'll find me. Follow me on X and on Instagram and on YouTube. You can watch a lot of my new covers that are pretty badass. It's music. I've been covering Green Day. I just did some Stone Temple Pilots. I'm about to do, I think, I Stay Away by Alice in Chains. I stay away.
Can you mute him?
It's a great song. So get ready for that. And I interviewed Kate Shanahan, the leading world's expert doctor on, I'm going to call her that, on seed oils and the danger of vegetable oils on my YouTube channel. Check that interview out. It is awesome. I love you. I'll see you later.
Cool. It's been so fun having you here, Brandon. It's always fun to see you.
Always fun to be here.
I'm Hannah Claire Bremlow. I'm a writer for SCNR.com. That's Scanner News. Follow their work at Timcast News. A lot, I believe, is still on the ground at the DNC, so you can see his content and videos of all the shenanigans. He always likes when there are protesters. If you want to follow me personally, I'm on Instagram at HannahClaire.b. I'm on Twitter at HannahClaireB. Thanks for everything you guys do. Have a good night.
We will see you all over at timcast.com in about 1 minute. Thanks for hanging out.